For some reason or other, I opened the February 15th.
Recording in progress.
Kill that mic. If everyone wasn't paying attention, you are now. Bobby Kennedy, how are you?
Very good, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Just as I get all set, you promote me to a different place.
Recording in progress.
Oh, killing my background. It's my Zoom background.
For the record, I have both my microphone and my speaker turned off. I'm not doing any of this echoing stuff.
No, I think we got the TV.
Not me. I'm a geek. I don't have that happen.
Okay. You're set, I guess?
I am ready to roll if you're ready to roll.
Go ahead and roll.
Okay, Mike,
I finally gave you the agenda.
welcome everyone to the Board of Selectmen meeting. For
Select board meeting.
Select Board. Why did we change the name?
You're looking to your right.
I'm doing a little retro tonight.
February 20, 2024. And we remind everybody that we're video recording, and we take a moment to appreciate our troops who are serving. Thank you for that. Our first appointment is with Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical High School Committee appointing authority to vote to accept resignation of Jack Rose and appoint Girish Shaukar. I think I got that right. She can tell me if she's here. For the term expiring June 30, 2025. Are any of those people here?
Yep.
Yes,
Oh.
Girish is here. I'm here as an appointing authority, and I think Tim is gonna be.
Oh, Tim's on Zoom, okay.
Looking for,
Should work.
So do we,
It's not the select board, it's you as the chair of the select board and the other two people.
who do the voting?
Yes.
Do we have to have a meeting? Do we have to call a meeting of the
Yes.
three? So I'll declare the meeting open of the,
Tim's not on yet, so I don't know.
I don't see Tim.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe we wanna
we'll hold that then.
jump until, we can wait a few minutes, just go to the next.
Okay. Thanks, Frank. And we're skipping number 2, right, Chris?
That is correct, we're holding that. We are gonna take up number 3, though.
All right, let's do number 3. Amy Colleran, Facilities Director, to request waiving permit fee related to the townhouse insulation project.
Yes, typically when we do town projects in town buildings, the select board will waive the building permit fee, so the town is not paying itself the fee.
Good use of taxpayer dollars. All right, you want a motion for that?
Sure.
All right, so motion to accept Amy Colleran, Facilities Director, to request waiving permit fees related to the townhouse installation project.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then, is Tim here yet, or?
Nope, I don't see him.
I do not see him.
Okay, then we'll go on to the Danielson Pond. We're having a joint meeting with the Conservation Commission. Welcome, Conservation Commission. Thank you for coming.
If you're gonna call your meeting to order, you just need they need the microphone, Mike?
We have the handout.
And you have to note which ones are on remote.
I have what?
Note the members participating remotely.
Okay. Can I just double check first, Mike? Do you see Michael Perloff?
Yep, I see Mike Perloff, I have promoted, Mike, Kat,
Cat Scott?
yep, and Bob,
Bob Hartzell?
yes.
He's a consultant.
All right, so I'm going to thank you very much and welcome you to the joint meeting with the Board of Select Board, and it's the Medfield Conservation Commission meeting of February 20th. And we will do a roll call vote for attendance, but we have several of our members. We typically have a 7-member commission. We have 6 full commissioners right now, and we're hoping to appoint tonight our 7th, so we will have a full commission. But we will have 2 of them, participating remotely. That would be Michael Perloff, That would be Catherine Scott, we call her Kat. And then we have present with us John Woodhull, Bobby Kennedy, and myself, the chair, Deb Barrow. We're also going to have our agent present for the meeting. His name is Robert Hartzell. He's the interim agent. He's from CEI, an engineering consulting firm. So I'm going to do a roll call vote for our attendance, and I'm going to start with the folks that are participating via Zoom. So Michael Perloff.
He's on mute.
It's a mute.
Michael, you're on mute.
All good.
There you are.
You did it.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Kat Scott.
Kat Scott here.
Thank you, Kat. Nice to see you. John Woodhull.
John Woodhull here.
Thank you. Bobby Kennedy.
Bobby Kennedy here.
Thank you. And Deb Barrow here. So thank you so much. So I don't know if you want me to start or if you would like to start.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so I, on behalf of the Conservation Commission, met with the town administrator a couple of weeks ago when some questions arose concerning Danielson Pond and also separately some budget questions that the Conservation Commission had just moving forward into the future and seeing what we could afford to do with land management and what we can't. And during that conversation, that conversation occurred about 10 days or so, maybe 2 weeks, within 2 weeks of an incident of some concern, not a lot, but some concern, and unknown at the time, at Danielson Pond, which was at the end of January. And we learned at that time that a tree had fallen, and if you're familiar with Danielson Pond, you know that on the earthen berm, there are a number of trees that are planted along that berm, and they compromise or can compromise the integrity of that berm. And so it was discovered that one of the trees had fallen, a mature pine. There was a mature dead tree next to it, but this pine, when it fell, lifted a giant root ball out and took earth away from the berm, which contains the water and the pond. And so it was sort of left, that particular issue was left unattended. It was like Thursday or Friday over the weekend. The question was, in my mind, what, if any, sort of risk? Is it immediate? Is it small, large? What's going on? How do we figure this out? And doing some research, what I confirmed for myself is that this pond actually was deeded to the town in conjunction with the Wetlands, the Conservation Commission Act. So it's Chapter 40, Section 8C, which gives care, custody, and control of this property to the Conservation Commission. And so without knowing what next steps to take or who is ultimately responsible for taking care of this issue at the pond, I asked our interim agent at the time, Mr. Hartzell, for some feedback. They had a dam engineer in their consulting firm, and I asked him to go out and let us know if there was any emergency in the moment, because quite frankly, I was not really quite sure of where to go. I know that DPW had worked with Power Engineering in the past. I didn't know if it was a town response. I just really didn't know, and all I cared about at that point, to be frank, is that if it's under Concom care, custody, and control, I do not want it coming back to Concom and have us sitting doing nothing. So when I asked what the price would be and decided that if the town were really going to balk, that it was a price that I was willing to pay for myself, and I asked Mr. Hartzell to, have that person from his firm go out. And they did within, like 12, 24 hours and reported back, which I think was a really good thing in hindsight, because with that information forwarded to the town being the town administrator, DPW, at the time was a little vague on what the town actually meant, but that was clarified by Christine Trewiler for me, which is a good thing. That enabled a series of next steps to be taken by PAR Engineering, and they went out and they assessed the situation, reported back, I think as you've seen in the notes, if you looked at the select board's meeting package, and you'll see that PAR and CEI agreed pretty much on what was going on there, what the next steps needed to be taken to move that, sort of solve that immediate issue, and then what steps should be taken next with respect to the trees in case another tree were to fall, and again, possibly threaten or compromise the integrity of not only the dam, but that earthen berm. So at that point in time, in meeting with Christine, it was an opportunity to have the conversation, can we get on the same page? Like, so we all have a shared understanding of, what's going on at the pond, and the entity, which right now, as I understand legally, would be responsible for it within the town departments would be the Conservation Commission. And because the Conservation Commission does not want to be finding something out at the last minute, held accountable for something that it doesn't know about, and really if it is its property, and like its other properties, wants to be proactive and to take the steps that would be necessary to keep them, in the environmentally, sort of protected and preserved form that they should be kept. So that's sort of how we got to where we are now, and it's really just bringing it back to you to see if you have any questions, and do we share the same understanding? And what are the expectations, if any, for the next month or 2 months or next steps? Because Danielson Pond presents a bigger, picture and question ongoing.
Gus, do you want to comment,
Sure,
question?
sure. Let me, there was a fair amount of material that we got, and I think some of it came from Concom as well, with some of the state stuff. If I follow this, and even what you just said, I want to make sure I understand the context. There's one set of questions we have around the emergency actions that Concom took the lead on, actually, to, I guess, ensure that the immediate danger to the dam of having the tree fall over, that we dealt with that on the spot. And I think that's part of what your question here to talk about tonight is, are we happy with where we're at? Is there more that we need to do, just in terms of ensuring that the dam doesn't, erode or further expose itself to damage? I think that's one piece of it, but then there's a broader picture which says the town has a broader question around what does the town want to do about the Danielson Dam, Danielson Pond Dam. Am I thinking about this the right way? It's kind of a two-part question.
No, it is a two-part question, and I'm going to add a third wrinkle to it, which is that it's not only in terms of, those immediate next steps that they've been recommended for some period of time, and they're outlined really nicely in the PAR materials, and I think they were confirmed in some part by CEI what the next steps should be. Then the question would be, in terms of protecting the dam, as you describe it, until that bigger question is addressed. Yes, how does that get moved forward, and where's the funding for that, and what's the sequencing and the staging, and what does that look like? So there's that question. There's the larger question of what ultimately, there's an issue with the dam that needs to be addressed, right? Then the state has got some involvement and oversight with that. And that is not just cutting the trees and repairing, holes that come from fallen trees. That's a much bigger issue. I think everybody's pretty aware of that. And the third little wrinkle I'd like to throw in here is that Concom functions in two ways in town, and not only are we responsible, as you can see from the statutes that I sent you, for land management, and I believe that Concom has a third of, John, like 50% of your open space in Medfield.
More of the land in the town that Concom has care, custody, control over.
Right, so it's a large piece. But we are also separately responsible for permitting. So any work that you are going to do in a resource, which would be a wetlands or stream or near a stream, so it's not just in the stream, it's near the stream. The regulations are detailed, and there are many. There are about 280 pages just of the regulations for inland wetlands. That needs to be permitted. So for something like Danielson Pond, where we have an interest in care, custody, and control, there's also a permitting piece. And I'm not sure that all the permitting pieces have necessarily come to Concom when they should have. And to be fair, this has all occurred right when COVID was descending, right? And for Concom, we've had a lot of transition. So we've had different commissioners over that period of time, and we went from an agent who had been with us for 28 years to having an agent replacer who stayed for about a year, and then having great difficulty, as every other commission does in the market right now, in finding a replacement agent, which is why we work with Mr. Hartzell and CEI is on an interim consulting basis who gives us the wetland science support. And you're going to find a lot of commissioners digging in and trying to bring, a lot of administrative and other support to the.
So here, I'll get my questions then.
Sorry.
You started when you were going through, you first said when you first went and saw the dam and saw the problem, you said, well, I don't know, the town's got the money, I'll pay for it myself. Does the town owe you a reimbursement check on your credit card?
No, and they,
Okay.
and they
No, we paid for
don't,
it.
and it was just,
Okay.
it was really just a part of my decision-making, because I didn't have the
Yeah,
opportunity,
yeah.
I think that you were out of town, in fact, and it was, I got the call late on a Thursday when I was, like, after, around 5 o'clock or so, and then it was the weekend, and I just really, sort of in the isolation of trying to figure out, okay, what to do about that, and I thought, oh, if there's a big problem, I know whose phone's gonna be ringing, and I'm not gonna answer it. So
See,
that
one of
was,
us had to ask the question, and Pete's probably got some conflict of interest trying to get reimbursed, so that's why I asked the question. Next question I have
no
on
one
that.
discussed it with him, actually. It's just like, it's gonna be one of
Next,
these- yeah.
next question I have, and this isn't just at you, actually, it might, Bobby, it might be you or Christine. When the tree went over and caused the breach in the dam and we took corrective action, has that immediate jeopardy been dealt with satisfactorily where we're not still wondering or worrying about a dam that's about to breach? That's fair?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Next question, and this was the materials that you guys actually sent, I think. I finally got through my thick skull that the state basically says you can't have trees growing on dams, and we have trees growing on dam. So there's, the next question in my head is, what does the town need to do to make sure that we don't have trees growing on dams? Is that a fair oversimplification of the immediate issue we have?
It's an aspect of the problem.
So Bobby, you
Microphone.
need to use the microphone. It's on its way to you.
PAR Engineering here is here as well.
We do have PAR Engineering here to maybe give you kind of an update of, and might be a little helpful.
Yes, so the removal of the trees on the dam is one aspect of the dam safety order that's in place for the dam right now. That was issued in 2018.
I'm asking a little more narrow
Yeah,
question
yeah.
than that, okay? In other words, there's certain things that say you just shouldn't, there's the dam safety order, but that's gonna be tied to the decision we make around
Right.
what to do with the pond.
Right.
It seems to me there's a more immediate issue that says the state is saying you should not have trees on your dam, we have trees on our dam. Before we even figure out what to do with the pond, that seems like there's certain near-term actions. You know, if I'm understanding this incorrectly, then I'm more than happy not to have to spend money on anything, but
Right.
it seems like there's some near-term actions that are independent of whatever we do long-term with the pond,
Right.
that we just have to do to come into compliance with state laws or regulations.
So it's a recommendation to not have trees on dams.
Just a
The
recommendation.
state doesn't require all dam owners with trees on dams to remove them immediately.
Okay.
It would be a decision for the town to see if that's a short-term project that they'd want to do.
Okay, is there, and again, I don't know who I'm talking to, is there a reason why the town might want to do that from the standpoint of reducing the risk of having a similar kind of event as what we just had? So independent, it's a recommendation, that's fine, but do we have a good reason to want to do it? Just simply to lower our overall risk profile before we deal with this broader question around the dam, the pond, and all that stuff?
Well, from Concom's perspective, we had the discussion at one of our recent meetings, and I think that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we concluded that the next step, having
It's back.
We're back? Okay.
So I think, for those who missed the last few minutes, was I think the issue here is there's a certain set of near-term actions that we should do, that there's really not a lot of debate about whether it's a good idea or not. It's just a matter of figuring out what that is, figuring out how we can do it the best way possible, and figuring out what it's gonna cost to do it. So,
Yes. Yeah, from a dam safety standpoint, removal of the trees in the short term definitely makes sense.
okay. And then I think the reason we have so many people in the audience is there's a much bigger question, or at least a longer-term question, around what should the town do with the Danielson Pond itself, and consequently, what should we do with the dam? Now, I think we've all heard from some people who have an interest in this, and as a result of that, I've actually reread a lot of the things that we all got to read as background when we talked about this a year or 2 years ago. And that's a very broad conversation. There's perhaps a technical answer to whatever it is we do once we decide what we want to do, but there's a broader question. If at any point here you want to switch this over, you can, but I'll keep going until you figure I've talked long enough. I have one question. Does the Concom...
I'm ready to switch over.
Okay, then I'll ask one last, if you'll let me ask one last question on that, and then we won't keep it up. Does the Concom have a position about what is the most environmentally appropriate thing to do?
No, and that would come from a full and probably multiple meetings in front of the full commission. Like, no one commissioner speaks on behalf. So I know that there's probably been, I made statements at a couple of meetings that I was probably very inartful in what I said. And so that may have led to some misunderstanding, but there's no position from Concom or from me. The point I was trying to make when I did say that when it comes before the full commission, because it could come before the commission as a land management decision, but separately, any work that's done there would come for permitting and would be under the Wetlands Protection Act. So whatever the end result is, it would come under permitting. There's a different thinking today than there was, 10 years ago or 15 years ago about what to do for dam repair. So it was just a caution. Commissioners are really busy, and a lot of them are doing a lot of work right now because we have just because there's just a lot of land in Medfield, and it's getting more attention, which is a good thing. But there is no position, and no one commissioner can speak for anybody else. Everybody has an equal vote in any decision, and there are a lot of different opinions about different issues. But this has not been fully even really discussed. It's just we know that there's something coming someday about permitting. It's start learning now what you need to learn about dam safety. I mean, just getting access to the documents, and part of that is prompted in a lot of what has happened, not a lot, but some fair amount has happened to date has not been in front of Concom, and that we're just learning about it now. So there's...
So can I put words in your mouth in what you just said? The town is gonna have to decide whether it wants to repair the dam in order to preserve the pond. And if it does, the Concom stands ready to do the permitting to make sure that's done in a proper, environmentally sensitive way. Or if the town were to decide that the pond should be returned to its natural stream state from several hundred years ago, the Concom will also help the town figure out how to do that properly. I wouldn't expect Concom policy position if you what the environmentally appropriate or best solution between preserving the pond or eliminating the dam will be. Charles River Watershed Association, they'll have an opinion, but not the Concom.
I think that that's not entirely accurate statement, because Concom has care, custody, and control of the pond. And it's my understanding, in a brief conversation with Attorney Sorrell about this, that Concom just ignored that statutory sort of undeeded responsibility. So I don't, and that would be, you're asking me to predict how that might, come to Concom. And
I'm trying to understand the process to get us to the decision about what we want to do.
Clarify for the record, I saw the deed for the first time this afternoon. Before I was town council, I was actually on the planning board when we negotiated this. And what would it mean?
About whether Concom has haircut control in
Yes.
Danielson Pond.
Well, Mark, I would differ because it says pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 8C on the first page, that you'd see it at the bottom of it. There's a.
Mike, are we still good on the,
Yeah, it keeps popping in and out, but I'm all right with it.
I see what you're pointing to, and that adds to it as well. But again, it's not the ideal format.
Eileen, did you have questions or comments?
Yeah, I do, and I've read a lot. I read some of Richard DeSorga's history on it, and going back to the original families, and being Seavers Pond, Danielson Pond, Ritchie Pond. And so you made a statement a few moments ago about COMCOM having custody and care. So some of what's occurred around that pond, does that fall back on the Concom, like the trees, the overgrowth? Should that have been something that should have been monitored all of these years? Because this isn't something you'd have stumbled across 2 or 3 years ago. This is something that Conservation Committee acknowledged for 20, 30 years. It falls under you and under no one else.
Well, I don't think that's accurate interpretation of what's happened. So I think that if you look back, that for a period of time, if you date back to like 2010, 2012, whatever, that, and when there was a prior town administrator, it appears that there was a working relationship between the town administrator, and Kristen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and DPW. And DPW assumed a lot of the responsibility for the maintenance and supervision.
And I'm okay with that, except the fact that I'm just asking, did COMCON turn a blind eye? Or
No.
So if they were doing it, were they doing it without permission, without any guidance, without any input? Because when you were having the conversation a few moments ago, I'm like, okay, it's almost like you came across it, but yet I don't think you did, because you're claiming it's been under COMCOM for quite some time.
It's been under COMCOM because it was deeded to COMCOM, but there was an agent in place for, 28 years, and there was one chair of the Conservation Commission for that period of time. So there's an overlay factor there in terms of what information was available and disseminated to commissioners. And keeping in mind that during this period of time, you did not have a lot of electronic access to records and documents. You had to come into town hall, and you had to look, and you had to go wherever. And record keeping for notices of intent is problematic to begin with. So that's number one. So number two is that it's the applicant's responsibility to file the permit with COMCOM. And so if COMCOM sees work being performed in a resource area and knows that there isn't a permit, then the COMCOM agent, if they're in the town, would have the authority to go out and to stop the work and to issue an enforcement order or stop work order, and have the applicant the appropriate permitting and get in front of the commission and have the order of conditions issued, which allows. So could work be going on and COMCOM doesn't know, but it should know about it? Yes.
But you have, look, Bobby's been with town department for 30 some odd years. We go way back. So it's not being done behind the curtain. So I guess being new to this conversation and hearing what's going
Can I
on.
interrupt you for a moment?
Yeah.
I think that you know what I'm saying.
No,
which
I am
is-
listening, 100%.
Okay,
You
all
can
right.
watch the recording. I've been staring and
Okay,
listening the
no,
whole
I
time.
apologize.
You have my
But
attention.
let's just think about this, like, you have an agent who is a part-time agent, and her job was to see if town boards don't not, all the folks in town don't necessarily know if and when something is supposed to be permitted. And I ask you all to read the regulations and take a look at the 280 pages of the Wetland Protection Act regulations, and see if you can quickly and easily figure out whether something on your property needs to come before the commission for a permit. So that's, one of the pieces here, is that people don't always know. Some of the things are really sort of like, minor, some are major. Like, if someone is out in, near a water treatment plant doing something, it's not likely that anybody's going to see that project being done. If you're asking me if the agent, when she was here for her 19 hours a week, should have known that DPW was out, in the woods doing something, in terms of, that should have been permitted, I can't answer for her.
But wouldn't Concom be the applicant in this instance? If
Right.
if you have care, custody, and control, then
In terms
Concom's
of
the
the-
applicant.
Well, yes, Concom would be the applicant, then Concom would have to know about the dam safety letter in 2018. And in my experience, I didn't know about the dam safety letter.
I do believe it was sent to Concom. You know, the- transpired, so we did continue on. I know you had mentioned before about not having the inspections all the way through, and that wasn't intentional on our part. We felt that the Concom would get involved at that point to continue that process. We just started the ball rolling. When nothing happened, we visited with PAR to get these inspections moving again, and that's where we are right now.
Well, I think there's surely a lack of communication. Again, I would go back to, like, Leslie Willits was the agent, and she was leaving, I think she left in 2021 and there was, and we're talking during, a period of COVID and whatever else, and it was disruptive, to say the least, with some pieces. And then we had a new agent who was here for about a year and was not here for long enough to really gain any meaningful experience with the town, and he left in 2022. And so we've had Bob Parson working as our interim agent and supporting us since 2022. So if this started in 2018, and you're talking like COVID shut down by March of 2020,
I mean, I have a series of emails from Leslie acknowledging receipt of the dam safety order in 2018, so that she was definitely notified.
And my point isn't really this. I think this could turn into a who didn't do what
Right.
3 years ago, and that's not the point. I think we've seen plenty of places where there's state laws, there's even our own bylaws that people don't know that they exist, or they don't know how they tie together, and that's irrelevant. I'm actually trying to put the picture together on who does what
Right.
to deal with the immediate issues that we have, and then who needs to be involved in what I think a lot of people in this room would say is the more important issue, which is the long-term answer for the pond. And that's, it's looking back, it's more a matter of just saying, if we didn't do it right in the past, how do we move forward? It's not a blame game here.
So Eileen, anything else?
No, I'm actually intrigued. I know we have residents around Danielson's Pond that want to speak, so I'm eager to hear from them.
So, all right, thank you. So I think the real issue is, as Gus just said, that we have to figure out how we're moving forward, that it sounds like the trees really need to get taken care of. And it sounds like, since Concom has care, custody, and control of the property, it sounds to me like they're the ones that should be making the decision about the trees, but does that make sense, Mr. Sorrell?
You can operate on that basis.
That was such a legal response.
Ironically, I was on the planning board at the outset of this, and I actually signed the plan, so
Come full circle.
that was 1993.
Well, I think the trees will get taken care of one way or another, but as Gus says, the bigger issue really is that the town needs to make a decision about what to do with Danielson Pond, whether it wants to fix the dam or remove the dam, and apparently it costs about twice as much to fix it as to remove it, so the town somehow needs to make that decision.
I have a legal question, though, with, I understand why you're hedging, Mark, and I understand well, but my question is, are we in this conversation today, knowing what we know, having documents that were not necessarily formatted in the perfect manner to make it clear that Concom has care, custody, and control, is there any remaining doubt on anyone's part whether Concom has care, custody, and control? And if there is, okay, hold on. If there is there anything we can do in the context of this meeting to resolve that issue so we can move forward to resolve the problem without that being a lingering point of confusion?
Dick Judge.
No, they'll hear you at home. It doesn't
Okay.
really-
Dick Judge, 8 Juniper, just a resident, but very concerned to hear that this property was deeded to the people of Massachusetts, of Medfield. The original deed, correct, Mark, is
Inhabitants.
inhabitants of Medfield. So that means we control it. The inhabitants of Medfield have the care, custody, and control over this property. Concom has been great for this town, and they are in charge of making sure that any applications to do any work within a water zone, let's call it, gets approved or disapproved. So they oversee the work, but I dare say that they have not been in care, custody, and control of this property for 2 reasons. One, it was deeded to the residents of Medfield,
The town of Medfield, I'm
The
sorry,
town-
it's the town of Medfield, it's the same thing now.
at the town of Medfield. It was deeded to the town of Medfield, and then the history of Concom overseeing the property before Ms. Burrows' time has been not stellar. Those trees have been growing for 50 or 100 years, I'm guessing.
I gotta ask you, I'm not sure where you're taking this, and I'll tell you what.
I'm taking this to the point that Conservation Commission does a great job, and they are asserting that they have care, custody, and control over this property. My assertion is they are overextending their assertion because they truly do not, in the original deed, they were not given
Who does have care, custody, and control?
the town of
What
Medfield.
does that mean?
It means the people of the town of Medfield.
What does that mean?
That means we get to vote on whether this dam is taken down or not.
It's not the issue on the table right now. It's trying to figure out how to resolve the issue that we have right now about trees on the dam.
No. Trees on the dam I thought was resolved. They get taken down.
Who made that decision? Who has care, custody, and control to make that decision?
The Board of Selectmen who run
We
the
don't have
town.
care, custody, and control.
So can I just interrupt for a moment? So it is deeded to the town, and what you need to understand, if you and it's in control, in this case, of Concom. Just like the Park and Rec properties are under the care, custody, and control of Park and Rec, and just like there are properties under the care, custody, and control of the Water and Sewer Board. So, and there are, so it's, and there are appropriate next, maybe work to do it. It's who makes the decision, and I'm not arguing in one way or another.
You are, you're saying you have care, custody, and control solely.
I'm saying that based on my experience as an attorney, the documents that I've read and the research that I've done, that it would appear to me that this property, for better or for worse, is under care, custody, and control of Concom. Just like when I look at the deeds for other properties, and I see that over on the Hinckley swim pond area, that's primarily under the care, custody, and control of Park and Rec, but actually there's a 2.75
And that's-
acre
and-
parcel of land that's under care, custody, and control of Concom.
I understand.
So it's no different.
I understand, but what I'm saying is that you came here tonight saying that you have care, custody, and control over this property. We just heard from the town attorney say it's deeded to the residents of Medfield and the town of Medfield. So it was not deeded to the Conservation Commission or not specified
No,
as...
that's,
No
Yes,
town
please,
property
Mark.
is deeded.
We just get Mark to,
all right, so what Deb Barrow said about ownership is absolutely correct. Whether it's the inhabitants of the town, which is the equivalent of the town, or the town, that's a legal entity to whom something can be deeded. And then there's a separate issue of who within the town has responsibility, care, custody, and control of the property.
so after you've reviewed the deed, at this point, are you satisfied that it's in the
It's
care?
inartfully done, it's not, which was my only point to begin with.
Yeah, but is it under the care, custody, and
Right,
control of
but For
Concom?
instance, it should have said, right in the body of the deed, the 8C reference, it should have said, for municipal purposes or for open space and recreation or something like that, and then there would be no question.
Yeah, but so the question really, Mark, is which entity is gonna make decisions going forward? Should it be the select board, the town meeting, the Conservation Commission?
Well, I mean, as I said, and speaking not now as an attorney, but a former planning board member, I know the background under which the town acquired the property. And that would play a major role. I'm happy to
And-
share that if you want or not.
Sure, please, go ahead.
All right.
What was their intent when they gave it to the town?
Developer came into the planning board, was looking to develop around the pond. The way it was creative would be an understatement in terms of where the lot lines were. The planning board was not terribly pleased about what was being proposed. There's also those existing group cluster of homes right on High Street that we felt had some historic, we didn't want to see them impaired. At any rate, after back and forth, the pond and some access land was offered to us for town-wide recreation, boating, fishing, whatever. We didn't, nobody talked about the integrity of the dam, to be perfectly honest. It was just assumed. So on that basis, we approved the plan, gave the developer some leeway, and in return, the property was deeded to the town.
So the reason I asked Deb the question several minutes ago about does Concom have kind of an environmental view of what the disposition of that property should be? Should it remain a pond or should it be a stream? Was to try to get at this issue of the fact that Concom, let's tentatively at least say, has care, custody, and control, which sort of makes sense to me because it's a natural resource, and if there's anybody who's got the talent or the expertise to figure out the smartest thing for us to do from a pure environmental standpoint in the town, I would think it would be Concom. And certainly to make sure that we do things that are conformant with the standards and the safeguards and the rules and regulations that the state has in place to do things properly, whether that's build a dam or maintain a pond that has a dam, or whether it's to restore a pond to its original natural stream bed. Either way, it seems to me there's certain expertise that Concom has that would be the best source of expertise for the town to figure out how to go forward. That's, I think, Dick, what you're getting at is, but there's other considerations that go into whether the town wants a pond or not. And I'm thinking, what I was really asking is, I don't think Concom sees itself as the ultimate dictator of whether there's going to be a pond there or whether there's going to be a stream there. It's more of a steward.
What the quality of life and the vegetation. So it's a bigger, broader picture than just should there be a dam or should there not be a dam. And I do think that's the town's voice there.
So I think
I
that-
understand what
that-
Mrs. Burrows
that
is
Dick
saying.
wants to add something, so
Yep.
Dick, why don't you go ahead,
Just
and then
add-
Bill,
pass it.
if you want to follow up too.
I understand what Ms. Burrows is saying, but she's also the chair of the Conservation Commission, and so her voice has a lot of weight. And so when the chair of the Conservation Commission talks about, and I'm not exactly sure the exact words, but you indicated that taking down the dam might be appropriate, or?
No, what I said was that if this matter is going to come before the commission for permitting,
Yes.
right, then the commission should be well advised to do their research and be up to speed with, dam engineering, because the current state of the art at the state level for DEP is to remove dams. And that's just a fact. There's
Not really.
Okay, so just
A lot
one,
of caveats.
one last comment, and then I'll this over. There are no natural ponds in Medfield. Every pond is formed by a dam. Okay, if we start back of removing dams because the state feels it's good for this reason or that reason, not only are we going to disturb major areas of environmental concern, but we're also going to turn this town into a town without a pond in it.
But I
And
think
so
that's
if you want to be Dorchester, you can move to Dorchester, but a lot of people move to Medfield because we have the best in ponds and environmental safety. And that's why I'm complimenting the Conservation Commission in as much as we do need to protect these wetlands and natural resources. But I'm cautioning about taking action or reducing the people's opinion about whether a dam should stay or go. That's all.
I just, it was.
Can we just go to Bill Gallagher first, and then we'll go to you, Eileen?
I just wanted to,
Bill, can you identify yourself,
oh,
please?
sorry.
Thank
Bill
you.
Gallagher, 1 Homestead Drive. I I want to speak as a whole group, as Medfield residents. Everybody that's a Medfield resident here, I think, is on the hook for this, because you have care, custody, and control of Danielson's Pond. The Ritchie family and that deal was deeding the pond over, deeding the stream. So I think we are on the hook as Medfield residents. Thank you.
I would
I just want
disagree
to
with that.
clarify something, that the state may not be behind it, but in other words, if we file for grants, we may not be given a grant but that does not remove if the town was to move forward and say, this is a body of water that, because of just how, Bill, you stated it, it was deeded as a pond. It wasn't deeded as open space. It wasn't deeded as a field to be used for recreation. So I just think, to me, having read up a ton in the last, when did you inundate me with things today, Christine? But I was
all day
reading
long.
it. I was reading it and having a great appreciation for what you're just saying about what the town is all about and what we're not all about. And we have a lot of open space. But we also have these ponds that are precious to our varying landscapes. So it's not something that we should just be overlooking. We might not get grant money if if the state is saying, we're not giving grant money for that, we're giving grant money to take them down. Okay, then that's a decision we have to make as a town. Do we end up footing a bill for something that we know the state may not come in and give us money on? But I don't think, I would not want, sitting here as a select board member, I wouldn't want the state to say, no, we're gonna have you drain that pond. Like, that's horrible. Like, if we don't want that as a town.
So,
And I think that's a really valid point, and that was my intention, was that, Ms. Murphy is correct. There's a lot of money out there for things that maybe people don't want, and so it would be incumbent upon all of us to do our homework and put, the best foot forward. Just, make your.
I feel like we've been doing our homework for many years.
And I apologize if that's,
if you're going
if
to
I
speak,
didn't
you
mean to
need to
offend
use the
anybody.
microphone, please.
I mean, I just see this as an issue at the state level that could come and impact us, and we should be prepared.
We're delighted to hear from you, but the people at home can't hear you unless you use the microphone.
Having a microphone problem.
Battery's dead.
Oh. Jerry, if you want to,
You can step up to the podium.
the podium, you can speak from there.
Please do. It's important that we hear from you.
Oh, okay.
Pete, I also have a letter I want to read from Richard DeSorgis.
Jerry Bergonzi, 7 Homestead. I guess, it's very frustrating to hear this conversation because we have been talking with the Conservation Board for many years, 10 years at least, constantly, going back and forth with Bobby about, what are we going to, the level of the pond and, what's happening. So it's frustrating to hear you say, we need to do our homework and think about these things, because it's like, are you kidding? We've been thinking about it for so long now. It's time for action. And, the one thing that I was, interested to learn myself today when I went on to the Massachusetts dam removal website is that it's not, what I was kind of under the impression from the Conservation Board that all dams, they want all dams to be removed. It's more like they want to preserve riverways. And if we don't have a river, which we don't, that is really not putting the dam in that category of like needing ecologically or for the purposes of the state. And right in the beginning of their, on the first page, it says general steps. Recreation from the impoundment such as fishing, boating, swimming is a consideration. Power generation, flood control, some of these don't apply, but the other important part of it was a historical setting and character of the site in the area. So my understanding all this time was that like everybody on the conservation boards, in the state want to see these dams, be decommissioned. And it's not true. That's not what the state says. And, in addition, I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like you're being disingenuous because even your husband emailed me that he was in support of you in your opinion, to have the dam decommissioned because it's trend of the state, which,
I don't think that's exactly what I emailed you. I'm happy to publish that email. I said that I'm not in favor of spending the town's money.
no, but you
To-
said you were
to
likely
preserve
in
the dam.
support, you said
I
you were
think that-
likely in support
I
of the,
thought, my opinion was that the people that benefit from it the most, that live on the pond, should maybe bear the expense of repair of the pond. The town will decide what to do with the pond and repair the dam or
Right.
not. And that's a financial decision for the town. My personal opinion is that I think that the people that live on the pond and get the benefit of the waterfront
Right.
property are the ones that should.
but you
bear
said,
the-
you
a lot
did
of the
say that,
cost.
you did say that you agreed with, you know, that you're, with your wife and that, and her position, that you supported her position, which was to
I think, well,
decommission.
it's my
So it's-
understanding that there is a preference now to remove dams. I mean, they're removing the.
Well, yeah,
the
but that's what I'm
South Main
saying.
Dam.
It's like the
We've
preference
applied
is-
for grant money to fix the dam, and we've been turned down on that.
Right.
I-
But I'm just saying, it's like to clarify that preference, I think it doesn't really, because you're not improving a waterway, you're not improving fish streaming, you're not, you know, helping with recreation, you're not, you know, like all of the species that would actually be, you know, affected by turning the pond into, you know, we know what it'll look like. Just look, you know, right next door to the Federer's house. That's what it'll look like. It's just like a mess of like, you know, you can't, you know, do anything with the trees once they've fallen because it's on wetland. And so if you go on South Street, you'll see what the impact is because, you know, look at the South Street light. You go just beyond where that area is, where that land is wet, and that is for sale right now. He's trying to get $1 million for it or whatever. Nobody will buy it because I don't think you can probably do anything with it, but it looks like a disaster. And then right before, the other part of the land where it's also, I have to say, that's my land actually, because that's my legal frontage for my house, which is behind the pond. And that we can't do anything to make that look any better because it's against the law to, you know, to move any trees that have fallen. So what, after a period of time, what you have is just like a total wreck of like a landscape. And I don't see how that's good for the blue herons, the ducks, the birds, the fish, you know, the recreation. I just don't see how that's like, you know, a positive thing. I'll let somebody else speak.
I think Mr. Judge wants to address us now, too.
Thank you. I'm going to change the tone a little bit here. Richard DeSorga has asked me to read his a letter to both Chair Burrows and Chair Peterson. Members of the Medfield Select Board members and Conservation Commission. As the town
Could I
historian...
just ask for the date of this letter
Sure, February 20th,
today?
24.
Okay, thank you.
As a town historian for the town of Medfield, Massachusetts, I write in support of funding for the restoration of the dam at Danielson Pond off Route 27 High Street in the town of Medfield. Danielson Pond was an important mill pond as well as an ice pond, supplying ice for area ice houses. The pond is also currently an important part of Medfield's open space plan, supplying important passive and active recreations for the citizens of Medfield and surrounding areas. The pond contains natural habitat for numerous fish and wildlife. Its location for fishing during all seasons and ice skating and pickup hockey games in the winter. On a personal note, it was also a great swimming location for this local boy growing up in Medfield. Hidden off a busy Route 27, it becomes quite a retreat to sit on the banks of the pond and watch the wonders of nature, from its birds and wildlife to its scenic beauty. Without a repaired dam, we face the loss of this valuable asset, which has become part of the town's history since the 17th century. It would be a travesty to lose the pond. In summary, and his summary I think is longer than the letter itself, but in summary, for the past several years, the dam has been holding back pond water that had been leaking. Action is required to save the pond. The situation has been deteriorating over many years, and once almost an 8-acre pond surface is now diminished to about half of its original size as a result of the damaged dam. Danielson Pond is an absolute gem. During non-winter months, there are fishermen plying their talents on a daily basis. Even small boats and canoes are periodically out for nature. During the winter months, the pond entertains ice skaters, fishermen, and constantly utilized by the abutters, by generations of Medfield residents. Danielson Pond is an amazing wildlife sanctuary. In recent months, wood ducks, common mergansers, hooded mergansers, green-tailed teal ducks. These are the really cool-looking ducks with the super mallards, black ducks, ringnecks, bufflehead geese, giant blue herons, kingfishers, I had no idea, owls, hawks, turkeys, woodcocks, red-winged blackbirds, sandpipers, raccoons, possums, you get the idea, deer, coyote, etc., etc. There are also 5 separate species of fish in the pond, and it's a breeding ground for several of these species. The property of the current Danielson Pond site was in the Hammett family from the first land grant in 1600s until about 1887. There is also a possibility that the grist mill was established for a time by the Hammett family sometime between 1708 and 1718, meaning the brook must have been dammed up, creating the pond for the grist mill back then. 2 small brooks run in an area where the current pond is located and where an area is always wetland in nature. How long, if at all, that early mill is uncertain. But we can document, however, back to 1903, existence of a mill on the site, and probably early as 1886. The history of the house on 22 High Street, where Danielson Pond is located, dates back to 1689. That's before electricity, when everyone was English that lived here. And then occupied by generations of Hammets. In 1887, the property was sold out of the family, and for the first time hit the assessor's records and saw the mill property assessed at $100, and clear the brook were dammed. It was clear the brook was dammed up, creating a current pond. Richard only has actual facts to deal with. A lot of him that a lot of the things in Medfield are older, before things were recorded. We do know now that the 1905 property was owned by Pauline Danielson. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, a number of wealthy Bostonians began to buy up land in Medfield and convert them to summer homes and estates. Becoming gentlemen farmers, they became their summer houses. Their estates had landscaped lawns, fountains, fish ponds, tennis courts, etc. The history of Medfield, 1615 to 1886, says the old place, having passed into the possession of the Danielson family, has within the past 5 years been much improved, and it is one of the town's most beautiful town rural resorts. Here, the Danielsons entertained many from Boston, and it was because of this pond they were able to call it a summer cottage. Dedham transcript, 1904. The pond on the estate of John and Pauline Danielson was drawn off, and barrels of German carp, many weighing more than 20 pounds, were caught. The pond had been stocked in 1887 with carp that became so plentiful they were considered a nuisance. John Danielson died at the house on High Street in October 1909. They had no children. After the death of Pauline Danielson, the property was sold to Andrew Grace Ritchie in 1940s, and in 1980, the pond was often referred to as Ritchie's Pond. I'm trying to be as brief as I can here. 1993, the Ritchie family
Dick,
donated.
You're welcome to submit the letter.
Okay.
In its entirety.
Isn't that the letter, though, that Richard submitted to the state? Is that a rewrite of what he submitted for?
It could be, but it's dated today, so.
Yeah, I think
It's a little
I think
different than the ones
I
that
think
we
it's
got.
updated, but you did submit a letter of support when we applied twice for the grant application.
Here's another note. He just asked me to read this part. I will submit the letter and finish it off, but basically, he says the pond is clearly an integral and important part of the town of Medfield. Its history clearly monitors that of the town. As town historian, I issue my strongest support to save this important natural open space and historical part of Medfield. That Andrew and Gracie Ritchie, who owned the pond for 40 years, were concerned about Medfield's history and open space beauty, and the fact that they donated the property to the town, one can assume was because they knew the town would keep the pond and the beauty that surrounds it for all future generations. And for the town to go and destroy the pond, it would seem, would go against the wishes of the Rich's family's donation. They enjoyed it and wanted future generations to enjoy it. I will also send it would also send a negative message to any future landowners who might be looking to donate open space in Medfield for fearing the town down the road might go against their wishes, causing the town to lose valuable open space and donations of land for conservation means. That's Richard DeSorga as of today.
Thank you for reading
Thank you.
that. Is there anybody else that wants to address the select board at this point?
In the prep material, it said.
You need to use the microphone if you're going to address the
Mic
the
working
room.
again, Mike?
I don't have an eyeball on me, so it's completely dead.
That allows the people at home to hear you, Jerry.
Just in that prep material that was sent that was on the town website, it said that the Conservation Board would like to possibly hire another consultant. So my question to you is, after we've already spent $90,000 and all of the information already from Pear, another consultant.
So I don't think that statement actually was an accurate reflection of what was said. What was said was that the Conservation Commission, each member has a vote. Each member has a voice, each member has a vote. Concom hasn't voted on anything recently with respect to Danielson Pond in terms of hiring anyone or not hiring anyone, right? So it was simply, there was a statement, there was a meeting that was held, and there was a summary of the statements made in the meeting. And the statement that was in an email that I read said that, that everyone's agreed that PAR is the consultant for the town. And I wrote back an email and said, Concom has not had that issue presented to it. I do not speak on behalf of all of the commissioners. That question would have to go to all of the commissioners. So no one has any opinion right now whatsoever whether there should be another consultant, no consultant, 10 consultants. It's not a question that has gone to the commission for any purpose related to Danielson Pond. So it was my attempt in an email to clarify something. I don't want the commissioners on my board to think that I am speaking on their behalf without having even consulted them on a matter. So it was important to me to correct that. And I would just really like to iterate, I personally do not have an opinion on whether there should be a dam or no dam. And I don't know that anybody on the commission has any opinion, but each one of them has his, her own voice and his, her own vote. And it's not come up for any kind of discussion about whether there should be a dam or there should not be a dam. I made comments that said to people on the commission, I thought the commissioners should do their homework. And I apologize to those I've offended if I've used that phrase excessively here. But I'm going to make a point. The Wetlands Protection Act regulations are pretty nuanced. And so when you read things online about rivers, it's helpful to know, for example, that a brook, a stream, anything that is a perennial stream is considered a river. So it doesn't have to be a big, flowing, wide-channeled body of water. A brook is a river under the Wetlands Protection Act. So I'm just saying for the commissioners who are listening tonight, for all of us, that there are lots of nuances and lots of issues. And just in the context of permitting, I'm not talking about whether there's a dam or there isn't a dam. There's a lot to know. And no one has taken any position on Concom. And to the extent that they were encouraged to get up to speed and research and know what might be coming their way, that was all that was intended. And that's all I can say. I don't know how many times to say it. And to the extent that you referenced a conversation with Pete, I don't have a position, and he told you what his position was, which his is the financial piece, and is looking at that. And that's the beginning and the end of that.
So, yes, Mr. Judge.
Just wondering
If you need to talk to, in the microphone, please, if you're going to address the room.
This is how we reduce audience participation.
I'm just wondering if it's fair to ask, what is your position?
Yeah, it's a fair question.
I don't have a position. And what I'm trying to make clear is I don't have a position because I haven't done the work. I haven't spent probably as much time as you have on the website, but I have spent time with the Wetlands Protection Act regulations. And so I know that it is out there. I know there's a big question mark. And I know that there's more, when I do look for grants, I know that there's more money available for decommissioning dams, right, than there is for repairing dams. So it just tells me that there's, a trend right now. Do I know for a fact that the environmental science supports what you're seeing in terms of availability for grant money? I don't, because I haven't done that work myself. But I suspect that this question, at least in the terms of permitting, is going to come to Concom and maybe a broader question. And for me, I can't answer that question until I do that research, because part of my job is to know the environmental impacts. But I live in Medfield. And so I understand and appreciate the value of the pond in many contexts, for recreation, for the historic purposes that you've just alluded to, just for the character. It is a pond that is in a change, and like a green necklace, as our agent would refer to it, in terms of a series of ponds and wetlands that's just a beautiful continuing, resource. I attend the planning board meetings. I try to attend zoning board meetings, because when you're talking about MBTA overlay districts, one of my concerns is how does that ultimately, impact? Is that impact, even as you create an overlay district, may not be in the next 10 or 20 years. That may be 50 years from now or 70 years from now. And if you think, oh, let's just put it here where everything's a wetland and it's never going to get developed because it's a wetland, well, you may be really wrong. So I don't have an opinion on it. I'm worried about it.
So can I ask a quick question to you? So in our warrant, Christine, we have a Danielson Pond potential article.
So
yes?
I had a placeholder in there because I was concerned that the Office of Dam Safety would, as you know, we're under the consent order. I was concerned that they would tell us immediately we had to take action. And obviously, what we're talking about, I think the last time we had cost estimates were in the $800,000 range, with $500,000 for design and contingency. We obviously don't have that money on hand. So I put a placeholder in case they came down and asked us to do something immediately. From what I'm hearing tonight, we're not ready to go forward with that article until we determine exactly what we're going to do. We can continue to apply for grant funding. We've been denied twice, but we can put in, we can do another round now while we're waiting to do that. I just don't know how successful we'll be.
And so something I just want to clarify what I just heard you say, and I want to make sure I heard you correctly, is if you hear from the town that they would prefer to keep it as a body of water that would allow for fishing, for boating, for recreation, then the commission would not then step in and try to prevent permitting that would enable the pond to stay the pond. That you would not be then siding with an argument that the state is looking for the following, hence we would not be supporting a permit that would be allowing for the dam to be repaired. And the only reason I ask is your comment towards the end was you're going to follow the state's guidelines. And that's one thing if the state's guidelines are, in my interpretation of reading a lot of things, is grant money. But if we're saying we're going to forego pushing for a grant, and we as a community are saying we want to keep it as it's been for over 100 years, so we want to make sure that our Conservation Commission is supporting the town's efforts and not calling out the red card but the state is saying the following, that I don't want to see that happen.
So here's the thing. When we do permitting, right, which is separate from what should it be, we would get a permit that says we want to repair the dam. And here are the things that we need to do. Here's the sequence of the work. Here's the construction that needs to be done. Here's the materials, just all of the pieces, the grading, all of it in terms of what needs to be done. then we would evaluate that project to see if the work that is within the jurisdictional areas complies with the performance standards that are listed in the Wetlands Protection Act and in the town bylaws. And that's it. We would just see, like, are you doing the work the way that you're supposed to do the work to protect the resources while you're doing that work? And the other thing I can tell you is that if we don't do our job correctly, all our work is reviewed at the state level. And the state has no problem calling us up and telling us, you need to do this over. Like, they can issue a superseding order, and they can say that whatever Concom decided and whatever order of conditions that we issued, that we didn't do it right. We didn't comply with the state regulations. And they don't care about the town regulations. But if we don't comply with the state regulations, then it can come back. And it can come back multiple times.
How many times that happened in Medfield?
It's happening quite recently, actually. So it's happened with the trails. It happened with the trail for the Norfolk Hunt Club. It's happened with the recent project. There's been state involvement on the trails. So they're very interested, actually, right now in trails.
But for dams, so I'm going to be specific to a dam versus, like, I think what was going on with the trail was beaver deceivers and things like that we got.
I'm talking about a different trail.
Okay.
There are like three sort of trail issues the state has. The state has a process when you submit the application. They have a review period. Then they issue technical comments. And those technical comments, the Concom has to come back and they have to incorporate those in their review of a project. So first of all, they have input at the beginning of the review process. And then when we issue our, what we call the order of conditions, which is saying, okay, you can go forward with your project, but here are all the conditions that you have to, follow.
The state didn't like what you were doing and came in?
The state on a project, there were a couple of them, felt that there needed to be, the state would have preferred to have seen a different permitting process with more engineering involved.
And who were they addressing that to? Conservation Commission?
They were addressing, to conservation and to the applicants.
The state was coming in and addressing the applicants, and
Well,
conservation was
so
issuing an opinion, so it wasn't really the state coming in and slapping conservation's hand.
So in one of them, the state called up and said, you shouldn't have issued this permit on a request for determination of applicability. We issued a negative determination of applicability with 1,000 pages of conditions, and we should have issued it, they should have submitted a notice of intent, which is a far more cumbersome application with lots of engineering and way more expensive for them to do. And because we didn't do that, the state said, you should have made them do this. And we had that conversation, and actually the Concom had voted to require them to do the permitting with a notice of intent. And then there was a subsequent vote, and some folks changed their mind and said, we'll try to do it with the negative determination of applicability. Less onerous, right? State came and said, you should not have done that, but we will accept it this time because extensive conditions in your permit, your conditions that you issued. So it's almost the equivalent of having done the notice of intent and an order of conditions. So we did a lot of work, and what I can tell you is that instead of the applicant doing with an engineer, Concom and its agent did the work to try to make that project approvable by the state. So it was the state cautionary saying, don't do this again. Like, do the notice of intent.
You say Concom with the
Dick,
agent.
if you're going to address the room, you really need to be at the microphone, I'm afraid. Otherwise, the people at home can't hear you.
Gotcha.
And they're letting me know, trust me.
Thank you. And the Concom with their agent doing the work means our money, because the agent is being paid by the town. So you all need to understand that taking apart a dam is not the least expensive way to go about this, because even if we do that, there's going to be conditions that we have to pay a consultant for, right? And at $500 an hour, or whatever the going rate is for the consultant, this is tax dollars that are being spent to investigate something that's 300 years old in the dam for 300 years, and that takes Yankee ingenuity to fix. And all the engineers in the world will come back and say, well, this is a cobblestone, this is a natural, so there's no way to shore it up. But you should, and that'll cost you,
Dick, I gotta interrupt.
and that'll cost you $20,000 or
This is
$30,000.
up to the chairman here, but we are trying to have a debate over an issue we don't have information on, people are not familiar with. We haven't wasted it, but we've spent at least a half an hour too long trying to get to an answer to a question that is not gonna be reached tonight. We're just taking a lot of time.
And I'll sit down, Gus, but you brought up the fact that the money to be spent. And so I wanted people to understand there's money to be spent on consultants.
As I
and it's a
said, we
great
don't
deal
know
of
what
it.
the money is, and this is not
we
the
do
place
have
to resolve. There's
estimates.
absolutely money involved in this. And who spends it, and what we spend it on is
Yep.
an absolute important question, but it's a question we are in no position to get to a resolution on tonight.
And the have from PAR that are in the materials, the meeting materials tonight, are that it'll cost twice as much to repair the dam as to take it down. So that's what we're going on at this point. We don't have
And that-
all the details. The town has to make a decision about this.
And the
We're
estimate
not
from
gonna be
PAR
making that
cost the
decision
town how much?
tonight. And so that I think that what we need to have is a way to go forward with this, Chris. Do you have some sort of suggestion to us?
Well, I
Um,
think
thank you. You won't, I'll be quiet as a church mouse from here on out.
Thank you.
So I
We
think there-
appreciate your comments, sir.
there are a couple of different,
Please, go ahead. And then,
It might cost twice as much.
so you need to identify yourself.
Oh, my name is Jerry Bergonzi. I live at 7
You already had it, Jerry
Homestead.
Bergonzi.
Yes, this is Jerry number 2. She's number 1. So it costs you twice as much to have a dam, but at least you have something. The money that you would spend to get rid of, then you don't have anything. So, or you have a swamp.
And we're not going to make that decision tonight, but thank you, sir.
I'm going to just wrap up for Concom, but I would like to say one thing, which is just the comment that was made about the consultant, if you were referring to Concom's consultant. I just want to tell you, we could not be doing a tenth of what we're doing right now without his assistance. And he's not charging $500 an hour, and he gives a lot of his time for free to the town. And he has supported us in immeasurable ways. And that's one thing that I just don't want, I feel really strongly about that. And so his name is Bob Hartzell. He's done.
well, and just for clarification on that, he is only consulting on Concom is because we have not been able to hire a
Right.
full-time agent or a part-time agent. So he has been brought on because we cannot find somebody as an employee, so.
And we've been very fortunate as a town because he's very high quality.
So we really appreciate him, and on top of that, he has given his time to the town. So he should be respected for that and not maligned by sort of suggesting that he's gouging us. That offends me.
So we have this more large decision about what we're going to, as a town, do with this pond, Chris, and we need a way
Well,
forward on that.
So in January, on January 25th of 2022, so essentially 2 years ago, the select board voted to take the recommendation from PAR to do the dam repair with the nature-like spillway. And that, we proceeded the next 2 grant cycles with that, that design in place. We know that design could be upwards of $1 million. So I think you haven't, the option that needs to be, the decision that needs to be made is, are we going to move forward with that? Are we going to move forward with that at this year's town meeting and request, I would say, probably $1.1 to $1.3 million for that? Or are we going to do another round of grant funding? Go ahead. Yeah.
I was looking at the numbers, and the numbers that I saw, Chris, were $1.5 million.
And they're 2 years old, so they
Yeah, to do the repair and 800,000.
I would also comment that when we went with that plan, we were anticipating
we were the
we'd be
grant,
able
yes.
to get grants.
So I didn't get to the second
financial-
part of that yet.
Yeah, Matt Dunn with PAR. I never introduced myself initially. I did want to correct some of the cost estimates that have been thrown around. Dam rehab as of our 2021 report, or the nature-like spillway, let me just get to it here, was $800,000, and then dam removal was 840, with 500 in unknown contingencies, because the first step in a dam removal alternative would be to do a dam removal feasibility evaluation, because we don't yet know if dam removal, all the nuances of dam removal. Dam removal is a major change, so you really want to look into it and figure out what would be needed and what is going to change. In terms of the sequence of whatever moves forward, if alternative one sticks and it is the dam repair with nature-like spillway, the next step would be design and permitting of that, not necessarily jumping all the way to construction. And the design and permitting of that has been, we haven't looked at it in a while, but could range from, just over 100,000 to 150,000.
Could I ask one question about that?
Yes.
And this is something that's come up for me, having once again read the materials before this meeting and even seeing some new meetings. That dam estimate, we're talking about dam repair. But what I heard in the materials that came into us is this was a pond that was once 8 acres. This was a pond that people once swam in. So if we're, as a town, looking at spending money to preserve or repair a resource, not on pure financial basis, not on just pure flood control basis, but on a whole bunch of other reasons ranging from historic purposes to recreational purposes, I think before we get to a final price tag on what we're looking at, we actually need to understand. So if that was an 8-acre, how good are your estimates about the dam work?
Are you suggesting that dredging of the
got
pond
it.
would be
You got it.
required? Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what people were referring to, the wonderful 8-acre pond. That's not a, I don't know what that is now, 4-acre deep
Right.
sort of, or 4-foot deep thing.
Yeah.
This is the pond. And maybe that's not what we want, but what I'm hearing is somewhere in there, we're not gonna do this because we're just finding a way to make sure a dam doesn't collapse and flood people out. We're actually talking about preserving a resource. So let's put all of it on the table about what that resource would be before we get to a price tag that we ask people, we ask the town if they want to pay for it.
Yeah, dredging.
So back to my question. So given that, how good is that dam estimate right now?
Dredging of the pond was not included in that estimate, yes.
But the dam you designed would probably be able to handle it. Because there's people who've complained or criticized the fact that a couple of years ago, the pond level has been dropped because of the weakness of the dam and the flood dangers that it represented downstream. So I'm assuming that the dam, if it's gonna be restoring to something approaching 8 acres, the level's going back up.
Right. The 8-acre discussion and dredging of the pond is not something, not a history that I'm familiar with.
And was the dam design one that you think is gonna be capable, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just
Right.
asking.
Yeah.
That estimate for what the dam needed to be, is it one that's gonna be capable of actually holding back a level of water that's, I don't know, a foot or two higher than?
Yeah,
Okay,
the
all right.
dam repair project would be more than capable of accommodating a future dredge project.
First piece of good news I think I've heard in the last hour. Okay.
Marcia Bovarnik, 121 Granite Street. So just the question would be, would repairing the dam alone, then rainwater and everything, wouldn't it be held in there, so you'd be just bringing up the level then anyway? Without dredging?
So, being the conceptual nature that we're at now, where what we were proposing to do is maintain the current pool level. But certainly, with storm events, the pond level comes up and it's deeper, but it's gonna go back down to what it is out there normally. Was that your question?
Well, it just, when the water level is higher, there's less vegetation, that's just a fact,
Right.
So
And-
therefore, the vegetation would be less
Right.
if the level is higher.
And the dam in the current condition, though, isn't keeping in
Enough water.
the water.
Is it lower?
We're keeping it low. Hi, everyone. Yeah, and I'm speaking for DPW, and
So we do keep the pond at a winter height because we don't trust it at full bore and don't want it to break or do any kind of strange happenings. So we keep it a little bit lower in the winter and the spring too. Also, if care, custody, and control are gonna be under COMCOM, there's a ground truth that DPW does all the work down there and is pulling boards before storms and is quite active trying to keep it from breaking. So it's it's not something that just takes care of itself. It's not a set and forget. The farmer used to live there, and he could run out before it rained and pull the boards out, or, you know, a new design, you wouldn't have to do that. So there's a lot of work, and, you know, if DPW isn't gonna do it, it's something that COMCOM should be planning on having people around to maintain those properties, if that's the way they're gonna go.
Thanks, Bobby. So we need a path forward. I would suggest to my colleagues and to Chris. I'm sort of left with a unresolved sense as to whether it's the CONCOM or the select board that has the care custody. I don't know, I guess I've heard different things about who should be making the decisions. So I guess that would be the first thing that I would suggest that the town figure out.
I think, to be honest with you, Pete, the CONCOM, I can see having care, custody, and control, and I can see the focus of the CONCOM being care, custody, control in the sense of compliance with environmental regulations, in the sense of being the voice of conscience for the environmental concerns or complications coming from that. I think it's the select board's job to set up the community conversation that
Has to be a
takes, because of
community
the factors.
conversation.
There are historical factors. There are recreational factors, and as a couple of you have heard from my email, and at the bottom of that pile is the interests of the people who happen to live close by, who like to look out their window. It's not irrelevant, but it's actually not as important as those other factors if the town is who's gonna pay for it. Now, if everybody around the pond says, no, we'll take it and we'll let it be a public amenity that we'll care for, my priority completely changes. But it's important, but those factors, that conversation on all those dimensions needs to be heard. And I think all we can do is orchestrate that public conversation and maybe help bring about the financial side of it, so when people are looking at stuff, they know what they're signing up for. We have the town said, yes, let's buy the state hospital property and let's pour money into it for 10 years. They were willing to pay to preserve the history. They weren't willing to do that for the Dwight Derby House, Peak House, Lowell Mason House. We have people, and the Kingsbury Gristmill, incidentally. We had people in town who cared so much about it that they stepped forward. And the town wasn't willing to put any money into the Clark Tavern. And there was one couple that bought it but couldn't get approval to put anything up there, and we lost it. And if you go to some of Richard DeSorger's presentations from years past, you'll see some incredible buildings in this town that nobody cared about. So it's not like we always decide that the town will preserve everything historic. A lot of why we have so much preserved is because we have a mix of ways we've gone about funding and supporting the things that I think all of us value a lot. But it isn't all just on the taxpayer to pay for all those things. And I don't know where this one's gonna fall. But we gotta characterize it first and price it.
Well, I think that's one of the first steps is we need to get PAR to redo an update of the cost analysis that we had done 2 years ago. I think that's the first step, so that we know what we're talking about in current dollars rather than 2 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I would think if the town does step up, there may be requests for, is there a way to make it so it's easily accessible for the town, right? So is there a parking lot, the ability to drop in a canoe, to drop in a kayak, to drop in a little non-motored boat, so that it is part of the town more?
Yes, Mr. Sorrell.
So going back in context again, history, what was deeded to us, what was shown, it's not the pond per se, it's a lot that includes the pond. It includes frontage on 27, which was intended originally to be a gravel parking lot. that in the early days, there was a problem between DPW and Concom that prevented, it just never got built, but that was the original intent.
Okay.
And it was to be public accessible, that was the driver.
Okay, I saw that on a map earlier tonight, okay.
And the other point I'd make is, in terms of context, what's been driving this from the get-go, starting 2018, is the Office of Dam Safety. And they're not an environmental group, that's not their mandate. It was a series of failures or near failures back in the 1990s, including a major failure in Taunton. They decided to go out and be proactive and take surveys of all these dams. There's thousands of them throughout the state that were built in the course of its history. And back in those days, they didn't engineer dams, they just started piling
Yep, they
stuff
just build them.
until it was holding back water and seemed to be strong enough. So
Yep,
they
so we'll get some-
required all these surveys, and they require follow-up, and so they expect that the town will continue its effort.
Yep.
Whatever they are.
I think we have a
Can I just make
Please go
one
ahead.
point, is that with respect to Concom, in terms of like whatever the town is going to do about that dam is a piece, but in terms of if you're going to sort of start adding things and changing the site, and and it looks like it's morphing away from passive recreation and whatever, then having care, custody, and control, Concom may say that is not something that Concom would be comfortable with. And I don't know what Concom would do, because I speak only for myself. I'm just saying, as a point of fact, that if you said, well, we're going to put in parking in a concession stand, we're going to put lights, we're going to do it. I know that you're not saying that, but I'm just saying that
A parking lot, would you have an issue putting a parking lot so people could get off at 27 and be able to park
There's
their
a
car
parking lot there already.
I mean, no, but I mean, if you said that you were going to just, it would depend on the size and the shape and the proximity to the jurisdictional areas, because there are wetlands there as well as like the pond. So it would definitely be a design piece in terms of is it a small, is it large, is it like a 3-story parking garage? It just, no, I know, but the point I'm trying to make, which is just, it depends. I can't answer that question, and that would be a commission decision. That wouldn't be.
It was a simple question, a dirt parking lot to put five cars like the residents.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that I don't want anyone to think that whatever sort of design features or other features someone might want to add in the conversation that ensues could go far beyond, because Concom would say that's outside of passive recreation at that point, and that just sort of now.
So I think we've got 2 more speakers who want to address us. Is that why you're standing up?
Thank you. Chris Lavin on 36 High Street. It's just very basic. I'm a very shallow person. I heard the number is plus or minus 800,000 to either keep the dam or get rid of the dam. I heard that the original donation of the property was from a recreational and conservation standpoint. So to me, we've had a lot of discussion, but they're the basic points I'm walking away from this meeting with. I hear your comment about 1.5 million. I didn't hear that number there. I'm just trying to bellow it down to a couple basic points: the intent of the donation of the property originally, and the true cost and what the impact is. So again, that's my only point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill, did you want to speak again?
Thank you very much. Bill Gallagher, 1 Homestead Drive. I'm guessing then, and this is above my pay grade, but I'm guessing that your team ought to manage all the ponds in town. That's my guess. The other thing is, if we can get from Per a breakdown of the estimate, just so we could all see it, and then were there any other designs brought forward other than the one you have now? Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
So Bill, those are on the website. That is from the meeting that the select board had in January of 2022.
Yes.
So what I would like them to do is update those cost estimates so we have real live numbers for now.
I guess I misspoke. Being a construction manager for 32 years, I'd like to see the breakdown of it takes this much manpower to do this many yards of concrete, that sort of thing.
I see what you're saying.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
With respect to the ponds, that you'll find that like Meeting House Pond is under the care, custody, and control of Park and Rec, I believe, and that Vine Lake is under water and sewer, and so not all of the ponds are, they're subject to different boards.
I'm pretty sure PAR's the big winner tonight. They kind of simple questions.
So if there are no other questions for Concom, should we adjourn our meeting and do a roll call vote to?
I think we're done with Danielson Pond for tonight.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Bobby Kennedy. Do I have a second? Thank you, John Woodhull. I'm going to do a roll call vote. So, John Woodhull? Aye. Bobby Kennedy?
Aye.
Kat Scott? Thank you. Is Michael Perloff still on? Yes, Michael Perloff?
Yes, I'm still here, and I vote aye.
Thank you, Michael. And Deb Barrow, aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
everyone,
coming.
taking your time to listen.
More about Danielson Pond later.
Well, while we're clearing out, I think this is administrative. The article on Danielson Pond, it sounds like we won't need the article for Danielson Pond. I don't think we'll need at this town
No,
meeting.
it's premature. I'm taking it off. I'm just gonna keep moving things.
I think Scott McDermott left.
I'm sorry?
Scott McDermott, I don't see him.
He's coming right now, but Tim Knight has a hard stop at 8 o'clock.
So can we promote Tim Knight, please?
He's been waiting for him.
Yes, he is. I just promoted.
Okay. Appropriation for Danielson Pond has been removed. We are now renumbering the articles again.
At least that was at the bottom of the list. Well, it was.
I know, that's okay. I've renumbered them 4 or 5 times now.
Sloppy this thing is.
Okay,
Okay, if you can go back to Tri-County.
To stay off camera.
so we want to call the Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical High School Committee Appointing Authority to order. Tim, are you there? Chair of the school committee, chair of the select board, and the moderator forms the committee.
He needs to be promoted. He's on as an attendee.
Yeah, he's.
All right, he's,
Thank you for waiting with us so patiently. If you're the
still want to do
person,
it after all this? Asking for a friend.
they may operate differently over at Tri-County than we do. So I'll just say thank you for volunteering for this. And I read your letter with great pleasure. It was so nice to have you be so willing to volunteer and help out. So thank you. I'm anticipating the vote, since you're the only candidate.
Tim's joining now.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for coming.
We need to identify ourselves.
Can you identify yourself, please? Okay, we've called the meeting to order, Tim, before you were given speaking part. So I guess we just need a motion to make an appointment. Do you want to do that, Scott, or?
No.
Tim?
I don't have it. I thought it was written. I thought we had a motion.
Yeah, you're just moving the applicant.
For the balance of Jack Rose's term.
I thought we were gonna accept the resignation.
Yep.
So I move that we
Okay.
accept the resignation of Jack Rose.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'll second it. All those in favor?
No, you gotta take.
Roll call. Scott?
Scott, yes.
Tim?
Good night, yes.
Pete, yes. And then do we have a motion to appoint Garish Saukar to a term expiring June 30, 2025, to the Tri-County
Move that we
Board?
appoint Gary Sarkar to the Tri-County Board.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Scott?
Yes, in favor.
Tim?
Yes, I support.
Peterson, yes. Thank you so much. You're elected, and I hope I got close on your name, so.
You got close.
And now you have to adjourn that committee.
So we need a motion to adjourn the committee.
Okay, I move that we adjourn tonight's committee meeting.
Second, Scott?
Aye.
Tim?
Yes,
Peterson, yes. Okay, thank you for the excellent meeting. Accomplished all we needed to do.
Yeah, and I apologize to everyone. I had the right time. I double checked this morning and I looked at the wrong agenda, so I apologize for.
Not a problem. You just had to listen to a lot of Danielson Pond.
Yes, I learned a lot.
Me too.
You know, on average, we've gotten through a number of items in like less than half an hour.
Mo, you're the next person. Mo Goulet, DPW Director, to request the Select Board accept the following amendment to contract with Environmental Partners for Water Treatment Plant. B, vote to approve $220,000 in Norfolk County ARPA funds for the inflow and infiltration project. Thank you for coming.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Thanks for all your input on Danielson Pond, too.
Everything's good. Everything's good. The amendment for the environmental partners for the water treatment plant, this was brought in front of the Permanent Planning Building Committee that was approved at their meeting for recommendation. It was an amendment to, since the project is almost going to be another year from its original date because of supply chain issues and closeout of the treatment plant. This is a not-to-exceed figure. This is not, it's a $60,000 to have available for warranty issues, for any extra closeout items. The building inspector had brought more changes to the project, which had to be accompanied. That's what's part of this amendment, so.
And that's about 60,000, was it?
Correct.
Yep. Any questions, Gus?
Yeah, just quick ones this time, but you've already
Sure.
sorted this out. Because this is a revised scope of services, and it also to help get the support for the first warranty year, was the cost of that first warranty year support part of the original contract?
I don't believe it was.
Not at all.
I don't believe so, not for the first warranty year. So they're helping us out. We would be on our own if they didn't put that in here.
Okay.
So we agreed to be our backup for this, for the first year.
And then if I understood from the document, what I was looking and saying, I assumed that was, although perhaps the support was greater, but what I picked up was it was for additional interior exit signs, and what I was trying to understand extra work was that justified the $60K.
Right, it was a change order that they have to oversee that work as well.
Okay. The question I had.
Eileen?
No, I'm good.
I'm good too. So can you do a motion
So,
for us?
so am I doing the motion and calling out the 60K or just reading it as is?
As is, I
usually
think.
call it out only because people are listening.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
heard call it out.
I always mention it because I think it's,
To
im-
amend the contract with environmental partners for $60,000 for the water treatment plant, does that make sense? Okay.
Second.
Actually, to approve the amendment, right?
Approve the amendment,
More than
yeah.
just the 60. it's a
Right, it's
prescription.
amendment to the original contract
Oh,
for,
okay, all right,
that equals
let me
60,000.
restate. Motion to approve the amendment to the contract with environmental partners for $60,000 for the water treatment plant.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye. And then the next one.
And then the next one is, we're looking to acquire some ARPA funding for this particular project. As you know, we have some I&I issues and infiltration in our sewer system that we've talked about in the past. During one of the rain events, there was an issue at the school, and we did look into that. We found, not a smoking gun, but we did find a good amount of water coming into our system, groundwater coming into our system. This is to investigate, to try to narrow it down. We did narrow it down to an area of the Phillips Street, Harding Street, and the high school. It was close to about a half to possibly 2/3 of the flow at that time, extra flow coming into the treatment plant, which is a huge find for us. So this will narrow it down and try to create projects from this to not eliminate but reduce our I&I, which would tremendously helped the treatment plant.
That's good. All right, all right.
Questions?
Yep, you've gotten this question from me before. This is a lump sum contract, but the contractor says we'll bill monthly. And on what basis? And how much they're gonna bill monthly?
What they get done from the contract as far as progression.
Percent complete? So it's
Yes.
a percent complete, okay, thanks. That's all I.
Any questions?
good.
I'm good.
Come on, Gus, come at me. Come on.
Do you want my highlighter?
You stuck it out for the Danielson podcast. I don't want you to never come back.
All right, so I motion to approve $220,000 in Norfolk County ARPA funds for an inflow and infiltration project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thank you, Mo.
Bye, Mo.
Next,
I'm glad to hear you were prepared, though.
we have Bob Winograd, Chair of the Community Choice Aggregation Committee, to provide an update on the committee and to request the Select Board vote to authorize the town administrator to be the point of contact and signatory for the Medfield Community Electricity Program. It seems like community choice aggregation is becoming community electricity.
Right.
Is Bob going to join us?
Yes, I just,
Yes, I'm here. I apologize.
Thank you, Bob, for coming. Thanks for everything you've done on this.
I just say thank you for coming. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be on site tonight, so I apologize for that. It's just the personal matters that preclude my being there. Let me see if I can actually show my face as we're doing this. Back the video, so you can see me in person. Hi, everyone who's still awake and listening to what's going on this evening. Spent a lot of time evening. I'm going to be speaking, obviously, to community choice aggregation on January 29th. After nearly 3 years, we finally have the approval from DPU to move forward with our implementation of community choice aggregation. Taking us back in, for 30 seconds of history, it's back in the town meeting of 2021 that we were authorized to move forward with a program of this nature, community choice. What this means to the community at large and for anyone who's listening in tonight, let me direct you, because I'm not going to get into any detail about what this program is about. I'm going to refer you to the town website where there is a committee listed with our name on it, Community Choice Aggregation. If you go into that link, you'll see a lot of information about what this program is all about. And if you really like to dig into further details, there's a reference there, a link there to another site that goes by the label electricity.medfield.net. If anyone experiences insomnia at night, I recommend that you click on that link. It'll put you to sleep for sure. So in terms of getting insights, that's where to go. It was January 29th, I mentioned that we got our approval to move forward. We've had over 3 hours of communication with Good Energy, our consultants, on moving forward. Key to our communications with the Good Energy, there are several people who are very important to us. One is Patrick Roach, Director of Innovation and expert on renewable energy. He's been a person we've worked with very closely as we've developed this plan over the last 3 years. Phil Carr, he's been very engaged with us in the last few weeks. He's Director of the New England Practice for Good Energy. Gary Fogelman's going to be a very important person for us. He manages communications outreach. We'll need a lot of his support, and we are promised a lot of his support as we're looking forward to these next 3 months. I'll mention why 3 months in a moment, but he's a very strategic player for us looking forward. Rafida Raymond, assuming I'm pronouncing her last name properly, she's our point person at Good Energy for any questions we may have and any access we need to anyone that's within their team. Stephen Loretto is the last person I'll make mention here. There are others there on the team as well, but Stephen is the person who's going to be managing all the bids for electrical supply that will be forthcoming very shortly. So that's the team of players. Of course, on our side, we have Gus. Thank you, Gus, for being so active and so prominent in the work that we've been doing over these last 3 years. You've been immeasurably helpful. Megan Sullivan, who I think is listening into this communication as well tonight, she's been a tremendous supporter of everything we've been doing in this town, energy related. And of course, there's myself. Here I am. Glad to be here. Now, as we started the communications after January 29th, the recommendation was made to us by both Patrick, the person I mentioned a moment ago, and Phil Carr, who runs the New England practice, that we implement this program in the month of June, go live with it in the month of June. I think our collective response from our side of the town was, might that be a bit aggressive? Well, responding to that question of aggressiveness, Phil and Patrick, together with the team of players I just made mention of, said that going forward with this plan for the month of June would be advantageous for several reasons. So I'll mention them very briefly. The first is that there are several other communities that Good Energy as an organization is working with who got approval to move forward with community choice from DPU at the same time that we got that approval. And there are a couple of communities also as well who are renewing their programs. So there is, size is an important thing when it comes to power and negotiations. So size is important. There are a number of communities that are just working with Good Energy, let alone other consulting groups with their towns that are going to be moving forward, and they're all moving forward with bids this spring in the month of March. So that's talking about just a couple of weeks ahead of us. But the point of having a number of communities going forth with bids, that's an important reason for us to go forward. The second reason is that it's a great time geopolitically, and the market is great. Now, when I use the word geopolitical, you may argue with me, but think of that strictly in context of I could have beers with anyone on this meeting tonight for many hours over the subject of geopolitics. I'm not going to get into that world tonight for sure, but we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. What we can say is we're in a world today where, from an energy perspective, we're in a good place to be going out for bids. So, geopolitically, 2, great market, 3. And that great market is based on history that Good Energy and other consulting groups have had with going out for bids. The time now is right, as they would put it. If we don't take advantage of June, then the next opportunity would be in the September-October timeframe to go live with this program. And history has dictated that summertime is not a great time to go out for bids. So there are reasons why Good Energy is strongly promoting that are being aggressive with this. Now, from our end, on the town of Medfield side, we've expressed concerns and they've been responded to. So let me speak to them individually. First, price. We want to make sure that when we engage this program, assuming we accept the bid, and that's up to us to accept the bid. It's not Good Energy, it's us. We accept the bid. We want to make sure that the bid is constructed such that the great majority of town residents and small businesses will be part of a plan that will, price-wise, be below Eversource's basic rate that most residents and small businesses in town are subscribed to today. So price is an important thing. We'll not go ahead if our standard plan, we'll use that term, is Medfield Standard. It's one of 3 plans that we'll offer, but Medfield Standard is going to be the one that most community members will be on. The price must be less than that of Eversource Basic. 2, communications. We are very concerned about communications. The town knows, as the general residential community, and small business knows very little about what we're speaking to here tonight. And we need to educate people very quickly and effectively. We have to do due diligence to the nth degree in order that we're successful in this regard. The response that Good Energy has had is that that's where Gary Fogelman comes into play, the individual I mentioned earlier. This isn't the first time that Good Energy has put out, has supported an implementation program. They have tons of material that they are customizing to our needs here in Medfield so that we can be effective in our communication plan. The onus is largely on them to provide the materials that we're going to be needing. And we're going to be working very aggressively with them in the next couple of weeks to make sure that they're all in play and that they're customized as we need to have them customized and that we have the right avenues of dissemination of knowledge over the next couple of months. Concern number 3, town resources. When have you ever heard this come up as a concern? I'm hoping someone will laugh at some of my jokes sometime in the course of this session I'm having right now. I do try to be humorous, but I'm not always successful in that regard. But town resources, of course, a lot of demands on the town now, especially this time of season is the busiest, as Christine has mentioned to us, with town meeting coming up, the budget and everything that's associated with that. So resources in the town are limited. And it's in that context that it's been again emphasized that Good Energy is here to help us drive to the end stage of going live, and the onus is very largely on them to provide the resources that we're going to need. That doesn't mean it's totally exclusive of our engagement, absolutely not the case. But we have 3 team members here, and we're going to be very engaged over the next 3 months as we look forward. Now, the last thing that was raised as a concern, and Gus, you raised this one, wanting to make sure that we have notice on any steps that are required by the town in support of this program. And what I mean by that is there are different points in time where we need to sign off on the program as our program is defined to the DPU. DPU is our overseer, together, of course, with the select board and town administration. They are one of our major overseers, and they require us to report to them on our progress and that we're meeting the terms and conditions of the plan that's in play and has been signed off by the DPU. So we need to sign off on affidavits that things have been done according to requirements that are placed on us. And more strategically than just the affidavits, there's the electric service agreement that's going to need to be signed if and when we have a bid that we as a community wish to accept. So and those are the points that have been raised from our end, the responses I've spoken to. With all that coming into play, we're going ahead with the month of June. That's the committee decision that's been made. Now, with regard to the town engagement, we're needing to sign off, as I've used that term at different points in time, for the affidavits to the DPU, and also for, more strategically still, the electric service agreement that's going to be needed. The question was who should be the person with the signing authority representing the town. A lot of discussion on this. As a committee, we concluded, and together with the input from Christine herself directly, we reached a collective agreement that Christine should be the person representing the town for signing authority. So the question before the select board tonight is permission for the signing authority to be in the town administrator's hands, that administrator being Christine.
Thank you.
You're being part of this committee. Is there anything I missed as you may?
You were pretty comprehensive, Bob. I think the only comment I'd make for both Pete and Eileen's benefit, the way I look at what, and I endorse the decision of the committee to do what Bob's recommending here, but in a different but related context right now, Christine has the ability she basically has to play the energy futures and call the shot on when the town is going to make a decision. And so she has the authority to basically sign the contracts for our broader energy supplies, and she's the one that's going to kind of do that. I view this, maybe it's not exactly the same, but certainly the description we've gotten of the bidding process for getting these contracts in place, it feels an awful lot like a cattle auction to me, where you walk in, everybody kind of knows what the process is. Everybody knows, there's a program and all the cattle are kind of described in a similar way. And then the auction starts and you have to make decisions. You will make decisions pretty quickly, and then you need to kind of close on the sale of the cow pretty quickly. So for all the reasons that we allowed Christine or authorized Christine to be the one signing contracts for our other energy supply, I think this is a very similar sort of thing. There may be some different signatures, but they're administrative compliance with DPU requirements, or they're the actual real-time contracting that we need in order to get this going. And from everything we've heard from Good Energy, we are much better off starting this thing in June, as Bob mentioned. One thing I think you didn't mention, I don't think, or I didn't hear you, is apparently Eversource, they change their rates every 6 months, but they, for whatever reason, have shifted their normal schedule of January to June, July to December. Their cutoff now is they go out to August. And then, so it's August to, I guess, February. The question that I'd ask Good Energy is, so which half of the year is the better time to be trying to sign contracts? And they were pretty emphatic. Doing it in this part of the year is the time to do it, which is why we concluded that we wanted to move fast, get it going. And these are 3-year contracts, so the difference is Eversource changes rates every 6 months. This is a contract that actually we'd lock in for, presumably we'd lock in for 3 years unless we choose something less. That's all I got, Bob.
Thank you.
Well taken, Gus, thank you. Any questions from anyone?
I just have one question, because I remember when this first came up, I think at the time Norton was just rolling out of their 3-year and was about to re-up. Was there any feedback from the town of Norton, or any lessons learned, if we could do it again?
That's not something, I've not had any communication with the town of Norton myself, so I can't judge that.
Franklin just re-upped. They got, it's all a matter of timing too, it's total speculation at some level. The initial 3 years was way below significant savings. The second time it came up was this last November, and they realized a savings, but half of what they had the previous time. So there's no guarantees with any of this.
Okay, and that's what I was trying to get at with Norton. If I'm not mistaken, when the gentleman was in presenting, he was saying, Norton is gonna be one of the first towns to come out of their 3-year window and then re-up. And I was curious whether it was gonna be sticker shock for citizens, or if it wasn't gonna be that bad. If what you're saying, Franklin, it wasn't sticker shock the next go around,
It wasn't as significant a savings, but it was still a savings.
Okay.
Because everything else went up.
Okay.
Relative.
All set?
All set, thank you.
I have no questions, so can you maybe do a motion to?
Yes, and I have a specific motion.
I think
Chris handed to
we're
me.
giving Chris the authority to sell cows or something, is that what it
Select
is?
board, a motion.
Only on Tuesdays.
Motion that the select board authorizes the town administrator to be the point of contact and signatory for the Medfield Community Electricity Program, and further, the select board authorizes the town administrator as its designee for the purpose of selecting and executing an electricity supply agreement with a competitive supplier to serve the town's municipal aggregation program, and as its designee to represent the town in the docket for the town's municipal aggregation plan before the Department of Public Utilities.
Friendly amendment, I just put a name in there after town administrator.
What's that?
State her name, get the motion.
Oh, okay. The select board authorizes Christine Treeweiler, town administrator, to be the point of contact.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have the 2024 town meeting and FY25 budget items. Chris, do you want to take those?
Yes, I have a brief presentation to give to you, which after the Danielson Pond, I hope will be very brief. So let me just get Frank to bring that up for me. Okay, good to go. I know we've talked about it since the last fall, but I thought now that we arrived at our final warrant committee guidance, and I believe we are at balanced budget, I wanted to talk about the budget process that we developed for this year. So this year we did a revenue and fixed cost forecast prior to anybody submitting their budgets either to Dr. Marsden or myself. Once we developed that revenue and fixed cost forecast, the warrant committee recommended that any revenue after the fixed costs would be split 75%, 25% schools and town. And the goal of the budget and the guidance from the warrant committee was to provide a Proposition 2.5 compliant budget. So the warrant committee issued their first budget guidance in November of 2023, and this was after we estimated what the shared revenues and fixed costs would be. So we had an initial forecast, revenue forecast of almost 72 million. We took out the fixed costs, and fixed costs for those that may not know is our health insurance, our property and liability insurance, items that appear in one line item that are shared between schools and town. Then we took the fiscal year 24 town and school operating budgets, took that out, and that left us with 2.250234 in additional revenue for fiscal year 25. That was then split 75-25%, and the schools and the town were each given their marching orders with a 4.1% increase allowable for the schools, at about 1.6 million. And the town had 562,000 in additional revenue, or 4.2%. So the initial budget for the town side. So Frank and I met with all of the town departments in the fall. We were able to turn in our budget packet to you in early January and to the warrant committee, and we met that warrant committee guidance of a 4.2% increase. And the fiscal year 25 budget included a 3% COLA for all our non-union personnel. It included meeting all of our collective bargaining obligations, including the third year of our newly police agreement that's expiring at the end of this year, but our new 3-year police agreement that expires. It also recommended a new assistant director of Parks and Recreation, and that position would start on January of 2025 based on our budget constraints. And we were also facing an increase in the DPW budget for state mandated stormwater management. We are one of the few towns we don't charge a utility fee. We take that and put that in our operating budget. So what's important for you to see is what wasn't included and how we were able to meet that initial guidance. So we denied the request for a full-time conservation agent, which you heard earlier from Danielson Pond, we definitely actually need. But unfortunately, due to budget constraints, we denied the full-time. We denied a request for increase in library staffing. We denied a request for the Council on Aging receptionist. We did not include merit for our managerials this year. We did not include funding for our class and compensation study. And we did reductions to operating budgets where possible. Fortunately for all of us, the financial forecast was updated in January once the governor's budget was released, and we received $57,000 higher. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is, higher than what we anticipated in our initial forecast. And the most important change for this year was our health insurance. So as you know, you adopted Chapter 32, Section 19, and we worked with the PEC, which is the Public Employment Committee. And we were able to negotiate renegotiate our plan design, which resulted in $226,000 reduction in our health insurance budget. And I'll actually go into that a little further when I talk to you. Thank you. It was actually $700,000, but we're sharing it, but you'll get that. That's my next presentation. So we were able to take that and turn that back into revenue. We also had some other small revisions, Tri-County, we had the enterprise offset, and we had a small reduction in our workers' compensation. So the PEC agreement highlights, which I can't thank, and I have to name all of the members of the PEC because they were incredible in getting this done. Nancy McLaughlin represented the teachers. Diane Malesko represented the teachers' aides. The custodians and the cafeteria employees were represented by Robert Bond. The retirees were represented by Martha Moon. The police were represented by James Moses. The fire was Paul Schleicher. And on the town's negotiation side was myself, Kathy Vandenboom, Frank, and Michael LaFrancesca for the schools. We have such a great collaboration with them. When we originally talked to Labor Council about the process to do the 32B Section 19, they said to me, that'll never work. That never works. You have to take the hard-lined approach and go through the Section 21 to 25. I convinced them that I had a great collaboration and a great relationship with the Insurance Advisory Committee, which became the PEC. And I can't thank all of those members enough for working with us to have a cost savings both to the employee and the town. So they did an incredible job. So our overall reduction with the plan design change was just a little over $700,000. The employees will see a direct savings of $278,000, and the town will see a savings of $422,000. Now, we are also sharing some of that additional savings from the town with the employees. So in December, they will have a one-time partial premium holiday. If you're on an individual plan, you will receive a $250 reduction in your health insurance. And if you're on a family plan, it's a $500 reduction. We are also offering a flexible spending account for all eligible employees in town. Until this agreement was reached, it was only offered to school employees. So now I think it's definitely a much more fair arrangement. And we are also increasing our contributions to the HSA for any of the employees who are currently enrolled in the HMO high deductible plan that we offer. And based on this new plan design, we are also able to offer for the first time voluntary vision plan and a much better dental plan than we've been able to provide in the past, all with that cost saving. So I really can't thank them enough for their work on that. So we just finished that. Actually, you're signing that agreement tonight, so it's hot off the press. We just finished that, and so we were able to meet with the warrant committee last week to discuss this additional revenue. So based on the calculations that I mentioned earlier, the warrant committee has updated their guidance as of February of 2024. And the schools have 1.9 million, which is a 4% change from last year. The town has 645,000 with a 4.8% change in revenue. So based on that, I'm now going to highlight the things I was able to restore from the cuts I discussed earlier. So we're still holding with a 3% cost of living increase for non-union that was voted in and recommended by the Personnel Board. We've been able to include a 1% merit increase for management positions. We're still maintaining all of our collective bargaining obligations. The new Assistant Director for Parks and Recreation is still slated to begin in January of 2025. We will be able to fund a full-time conservation agent. We anticipate with the problems we've had hiring, we are going to have a much more aggressive recruiting, but we will hold that position off until September. We are able to fund the class and compensation study. And again, we have an increase in the DPW budget. We also have had a double, the line painting fees in town have doubled, which we did not anticipate when we first did this budget back in the fall. So we've now addressed that as well. So our next steps, the warrant committee continues to review all of the warrant articles. The warrant committee is meeting with the school committee and Dr. Marsden on February 27th. Then we have the warrant hearing on April 2nd. Town meeting, obviously, May 6th. I know everybody's had it on the calendar since last year. You will see in the budget document I gave you this evening, you will see that it does not show a balanced budget. We're still off by about $70,000. The school committee hasn't had a chance to meet since the warrant committee updated their guidance, so I didn't want to speak for them and show that they were going to meet their warrant committee guidance. I have full faith that they will, but I did not want to make that decision for them. So you will see that we are still about $70,000 off from the balanced budget. But I anticipate we'll be there after February 27th. So it's great. We are balanced and we're moving forward, and our focus will start to shift towards our warrant articles.
Do you want to take questions on that now?
Yeah, if you have any questions, I know you're just kind of seeing it tonight, so there is some.
Yeah, actually, part of the questions I had, actually, you're at least partially answered. I left you a voice message, but it.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
close. My question at the time when I looked at the last iteration was I couldn't find OPEB.
Yep.
And so but I see it's here now, so it's properly accounted outside of the school and town budget.
Yes.
That's what I cared about.
Yes.
And again, I haven't gone through this in detail. There are some articles that require revenue, like some of the reserve putting extra money into reserve accounts. Haven't looked at it yet, but where does that show up?
We have not finalized that yet. We're waiting for the warrant committee to give us their final direction on free cash. So anything you see that's not funded in here is being funded from free cash.
And not out of the town operating budget
Correct.
or the school operating budget?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's my only question.
Eileen?
No, I am good.
Okay, I'm good too. About the warrant articles then, Chris.
So you lost the damn article, I guess. There was nobody made any damn jokes tonight. Come on.
You mean they were? I totally misheard them.
Just a couple of updates. I told you I wouldn't number them, then I did, and it's changed a bunch of times. So we've lost a couple of articles. Just to point out a few, I pointed out last week, we were dissolving the opioid stabilization fund, and we are creating a special revenue fund. The Department of Revenue announced to us, we just got guidance back from them today, that's not necessary to set up, so we'll be able to, we automatically have that account, so that it does not need town meeting approval.
Does that mean, but we are dissolving?
We're still dissolving that,
Okay,
yep.
it's still there, okay.
Let's see, I think there was one, given the announcement by Trinity, they'll be taking the next year before they close. We've removed the Medfield State Hospital School stabilization article. We've removed that. No reason to act on that this year. Let me see. And we're gonna take Danielson Pond off, and I think that was it.
What was
Sure.
it you said you removed?
We had the article to transfer the Medfield State Hospital mitigation payment to the school department. We had that on there. We took that off because there's no rush to create that account
We
now.
are carrying a budget item for Medfield State Hospital maintenance still.
We will be carrying that through free cash since
Yeah.
we did not anticipate that, and we anticipate it's a one-time
Okay.
occurrence this year.
Okay.
Especially if Trinity's listening, it's one-time occurrence.
Okay.
So we will be down to 38 articles after I remove the Danielson Pond article.
Gus, anything else?
This is what, this Article 30, however it's numbered, that's actually the maintenance and security.
Yes, and
But you're-
that'll be funded with free cash.
So that article's not there, or it is, but it's just funded with free cash.
Funded with free cash,
Okay,
yeah.
the article's still on the
Mhm.
docket, okay.
Yep.
I think that was the only question I had.
Eileen?
I'm good. I believe, Mark, you're authoring the dog bylaw verbiage.
There's already a draft done.
Okay. So when will we see a draft on some of these?
Hopefully by your next meeting, you should have everything.
Okay.
I'm almost done now.
Okay, great.
Yes, mister. Can you use the microphone, please?
Yes, same answer I gave last time.
Same question
Yeah.
about support for issues with DCAM.
Yep.
Okay.
I've got nothing, so
Okay.
we're all set then, thank you.
Great.
Action items, board and committee appointments. Appoint Nick Scalfarato to the Conservation Commission. Any questions, comments?
Good, impressive background, but he's not here, so I was gonna ask him which pharmaceutical companies he worked for in New Jersey, but, because I've done a lot of work down there, but he's not here to answer the question, so no question.
Eileen?
I'm good. Happy to have him on board.
I'm good too, so if you could do a motion then, please?
All right, motion to appoint Nick Scalfarato to the Conservation Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
When
Aye,
does,
aye.
when does term expire?
2-year term, 3-year term?
He's filling Mary McCarthy's term, so he's filling.
Mary McCarthy's term.
Right, so Mary is,
Does that have to be in the vote?
Term will expire whatever date.
We'll figure that out in a moment, apparently. Vote to sign the memorandum of agreement between the town of Medfield and the Medfield Police Employee Committee. Public Employee, thank you. Public Employee Committee for Health Insurance
2024.
Benefits from July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2027. Any questions?
I have one question.
Sure.
June
June 30th of 2024 for that.
So the article that you, or the motion we just approved, June 30th, 2024. 2024.
Yeah,
Just
she's,
till
Wait a minute,
June?
you get July 1st, 2024 to June 30th.
I had June 30th.
If 2024, that would make sense. Because it would, because June 30th, 2024 is after July 1st, 2024, so. That's why I said.
Let's get that straight before I have one question. but-
Can you just say to fill Mary McCarthy's seat and we'll work it out?
Yes.
There we go, we'll figure it out, yeah.
So moved.
So the only
Second,
Well, I don't
all in
know.
favor?
On the name appointment, yes. Aye.
The only question I had about the memorandum of agreement, I was just curious, does this change by any chance affect our OPEB retiree health benefits? It would change it in a good way, I'm just The actual,
I
they'll
think-
figure it out.
Yeah, they'll figure out, my initial feeling would be yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Yep.
More good news for those who
Yes.
stuck it out tonight. That's all.
So then, we're moving on to this, Medfield Public Employee Committee.
No,
That, you just had, you just,
you gotta, we haven't voted on the.
yeah, you just need to vote on that one.
So can I
I'm
just
sorry, we didn't vote
clarify
on
the
what?
motion on that? It's July 1st, 2024 to, is it June 30th, 2027 or 2025?
Wait, which one,
2027.
what are we talking about?
The motion, the number 10 that we're on right now.
Number 10, okay.
I'm just,
Okay,
Yes, it's a 3-year
Right.
agreement.
okay, just want to make sure.
thank you.
So do you want to make the
Ready
motion?
motion?
Yes.
Okay, just checking with you guys. All right, motion to sign the memorandum of agreement between the town of Medfield and the Medfield Public Employee Committee for health insurance benefits from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
We don't usually start falling apart until we get to like item 20.
Yeah, we're a little punchy since 5 o'clock, so it's all right.
Yeah, it's been a long meeting. Number 11, vote to accept FY 2025 MBA Health Benefits Trust Renewal Proposal.
Yes, and I apologize, you should have been given an updated one in your, at your seat this evening.
Yes.
The one online, was the first draft, then there was a second draft of it, so you should have the updated one in front of you.
Yep. And I said MBA, but it's actually MHA.
So if you can vote to accept that and authorize me to sign for that, I will get that done right away.
Any questions?
Oh, here it is.
No.
All right, so, motion to vote to accept the FY 2025 MIA Health Benefits Trust Renewal Proposal.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 12, vote to authorize town administrator to engage with Capital Strategic Strategies Solutions for Norfolk County ARPA closeout and to utilize ARPA funds to pay for the services up to $5,000.
This was, we had talked about this briefly. Norfolk County let us know that they anticipated and were mandating a March 1st closeout plan for all of our ARPA funds that were done with the county. We had not anticipated that would happen until at least June, or if not the fall. They have decided they want it on March 1st. We've brought Jen Thompson in to help us finalize that. We also had a couple issues where Norfolk County, we had some issues with Norfolk County in some of our requests for funding, so Jen has been able to mediate and work that through with us, with the county, so.
So that means that, because that's what I was thinking, if you have a plan to close out, that you haven't necessarily gotten approval for everything, you
We're all
basically
set.
want to know what we're getting approval for.
We have-
literally can close out the first one.
We believe we have the plan to the final closeout.
All right.
Yeah, we did get approval from them after a little work.
Good.
Questions or?
No, I'm good, I'm ready.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Vote for the motion, all right, vote to authorize the town administrator to engage with the Capital Strategy Solutions for the Norfolk County ARPA closeout and to utilize ARPA funds to pay for the services up to $5,000.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote, number 13, vote to authorize contract with CAI Technologies for annual tax map maintenance for $3,200.
This is our annual contract for the Board of Assessors for our tax mapping.
No question.
All right, nothing here, motion?
Yes, please.
All right, motion, vote to approve the contract with CAI Technologies for annual tax map maintenance, value of $3,200.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 14, vote to approve Medfield History Weekend, April 26th to 28th, pending event checklist completion and final approval from Public Safety. And we got all these
We have all that, yep, you should have all that in front of you.
new checklists
Yep.
from the police department. I like those. Thank you.
The only thing I would say on all of those event checklists, and Megan Sullivan reminded us this morning, is that you just have to commit that you're going to be doing recycling. So I assume at your recycling event, you should have recycling. So probably doesn't as much pertain to you, but you need to offer recycling on the street track.
So do we have a question or motions?
No question.
Ready to motion? All right,
Right.
motion, vote to approve the Medfield History Weekend, April 26th through the 28th, pending event checklist completion and final approval from Public Safety.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 15, vote to approve.
Chris Potts, 7 Curve Street, organizer of the History Weekend. Just to clarify, we're going to be charging small amounts for various tours. I didn't know if there were any problems with that.
Do you want to,
You did that last year, right?
Well,
You charge Medfield Day every year for booth space, it's never an issue, so I don't see the problem.
okay.
Well, it's doing, okay.
do you want to tell?
Sounds good. Okay.
Do you want to tell people what you're doing so that it's an opportunity for you to
Sure,
do some
absolutely.
publicity?
So similar to what we did last year, we sold out of everything last year. We did every one of the historic sites in town, Peak House, Dwight Derby House, Historical Society. Everyone's going to be open. Lowell Mason House will basically, quote, open their doors for visitors. Richard DeSorga is going to be doing another walking tour. This time it'll be Vine Lake Cemetery. We have our new Keepers of the Clock that will be doing the tour there. Again, we're going to expand that because that was very popular last year. We're going to be doing a very kind of low-key kickoff event Friday night. It's either going to be just sort of a drop-in over at Seventh Wave, or we'll do something at the Zulo tied with the new augmented reality exhibit. So should be a lot of fun. Excited about it.
Excellent.
That's it.
I see the Kingsbury Gristmill listed as well.
Gristmill, yeah, you want. Dick's
Medfield
gonna
Public
kill me.
Library, actually,
He's gonna
too.
kill me that I forgot to mention the gristmill. So yes, the gristmill is part of that as well.
So do we have a motion then?
All right, so
Thanks.
motion to, what did I do that already?
You did do.
And then she came up.
Oh, okay. Number 15, sorry, vote to approve Belford's Green
I'm
Team.
not sure you voted on it, did they
I
vote
think we
on it?
did, and then she came up.
Okay.
Number 15, vote to approve Belford's Green Team recycling event on the Medfield State Hospital grounds on April 20 with a rain date of April 21, pending event checklist completion and final approval from public safety, and apparently the requirement for recycling at the recycling event. Any questions?
No.
Good.
Please motion then.
Jean's running it, I'm feeling good about it.
Well, it's not just me. So it's
Oh, it's not just you then.
it's partnership with
Who else should we be worried about?
I don't know if Fred Cullen is on.
Tell us what you guys are
Vaughn
doing.
on
Give
here
some.
as well, helping out?
He's got his hand up.
Yeah, yes, Rep Vaughn and Green Team Recycling will set up a couple of trailers at the state hospital, not in the quad. And then Belforge will have activities and booths with recycling, learning about composting, et cetera, entertainment.
Hello?
Hi, Fred.
Good evening, board. Thank you for taking the time tonight to hear our request. My name is Fred Cullen. I am the owner of Green Team Junk Removal, and I have looked to do a partnership with Belforge, along with Representative Rep Vaughn and other community action. Hold on, sorry about that. Community programs and community. I'm losing my train of thought, but we're partnered with Eversource as well, and we've held these events the past couple of years in Medfield. I've held 3 of them, and we've held them at the high school, and we've averaged the last couple of years. Last year we did 268 cars. The year before that, we came in at 171 cars, so there's substantial growth. At these events, we partner with Eversource, where Eversource has a station where if the constituent wants to bring down a dehumidifier, they can turn in up to 2 dehumidifiers and receive up to $60 in rebates, so it'll be $30 each dehumidifier that they turn in. If they go ahead and they purchase a new energy efficient dehumidifier, then they're eligible to receive an additional $30 in rebates for that dehumidifier that they bought. Now in my station, we collect electronics, we collect furniture, styrofoam, propane tanks, fire extinguishers, and I'm also looking to add in more items as well for this year for my station. We also partner with Black Earth Composting. They'll come down and they'll educate the public on composting as well. I know Rep. Vaughn also wants to have more a community atmosphere. So I actually am the one that picked Medfield State Hospital to hold the event. I actually love I love the hospital. I walk in with my wife. I'm retired from the Department of Corrections, so there's a little history there with it actually being our old academy. So I'm kind of familiar with like state buildings, so I thought it would be a pretty cool idea if we can incorporate the state hospital in the event this year. Now, board, I'm going to be completely transparent with you, okay? We do, now it is Millis that we bring in Walpole, and we bring in Medfield. So we bring in 3 towns to this event. Eversource and myself, we send out postcards to all 3 towns, and we invite them to this event. Last year, I charged $20 per car that would come in and do any type of recycling with us. I'm waiving that fee, so I'm getting rid of that fee this year. So the way it works is they'll get a postcard. There's going to be a QR code. They'll come onto our website. They'll be able to learn about our program and what we do. We'll have the pricing, so it's like per item. That's how we're doing it. So last year there would be a $20 car fee to come in. Then if you whatever you want to recycle, it would be a fee on top of the $20. But this year I'm taking away the $20 fee, so you won't see that at all. I'm excited if you allow me to do the event again in your town. It has been a huge success. And for this one, we might be bringing in Sherborne. We might. We brought them in the past, but we're not sure if we're going to bring them in for this one. Now, a little bit of history about me, just so you know. Last year I did 95 towns. The year before that I did 72. And my first year I did 11. So I'm growing rapidly with the utility companies each year, and I'm excited for 2024 and see what it brings us.
Questions?
Great.
Gus?
No questions.
Eileen?
Sounds like a pretty lively event.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's smart too not to try to charge the cars, because you're still gonna have people coming up to the state hospital that have no clue this is going on. They're just gonna do their daily walk with their family, their dogs, so.
Yeah.
I think you'll get a lot of PR just from people coming up and then finding out what's going on. And I just wanna double check, what are the hours on it?
I think it's 10 to 2. It should be on that form that I
That's
filled
what I'm
out.
just looking at. I've got a couple of them. And the only reason I ask is you might find some people who are up there, 10 to 2, that go up there and then go back home and gather some stuff, so,
10 to 2.
yeah. Okay, that's good.
Fred, I'm just curious if you went to school at the hospital, Medfield State Hospital. There's corrections people used to run through my neighborhood doing cadences. Was that you?
My sergeants and my captains at that time, I actually went up in Shirley, but I've walked the grounds, I've been in some of those buildings, and it's got some history in it, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a motion
All right,
then?
motion to vote to approve the Belforge Green Team Recycling Event on the Medfield State Hospital grounds on April 20th, with a rain date of April 21st, pending event checklist completion and final approval from Public Safety.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Gene.
Okay.
Number 16,
Thanks,
vote to
Brett.
approve Medfield car show request for the Medfield State Hospital grounds on June 23, with a rain date of June 30, pending event checklist completion and final approval from Public Safety. Is Charlie?
Charlie's
Charlie,
here.
you are here. Thank you for coming.
We just got Charlie's checklist and everything today, so public safety has not signed off on it, so if you can just make your motion contingent upon that.
What do you think about the dam?
I'll go visit it now. But, yeah, thanks again for this year. I didn't know if you guys were gonna have the property available, but yeah, if it's available, it'd be June 23rd, as you just mentioned. Nothing's different, everything stays the same. The only questions I may have, my contact has always been John Thompson for the last several years. And I just found out a half hour ago that I'm not in contact with him anymore, so.
You can work through my office, Charlie.
Okay. So other than that, the hours are 9 to 2. You get a setup date, the 22nd, breakdown 24th. Everything's all the same as it's been, same amount of EMTs, police officers. Last year the theme was 70 years of Corvette. This year the theme is Mustangs, you know, so 60 years of Mustang.
No, I really like the map. Thank you for that. That just gives a better understanding.
The police officers like it, the chief of police liked it, and then the EMT know, and as it gets closer, I'll give them a breakdown of, you know, like they want to know where to enter. As, you know, if there's an event, if they try to come in the far end, they're backed up with all the cars, but if, you know, if they come in the Service Street entrance, that's the most accessible way for, you know, a unit to come in if needed.
In fact, yeah, remember, right, you don't do rain dates, so it's just this date.
There is a rain date on there, but, you know, last year I had a rain date.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, June 30th.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, last year I had a rain date, but I used my regular date, and the weatherman all week long said, you know, the forecast had rain all week, so my turnout wasn't what I expected last year, and you know, but I used it anyways. It ended up being a beautiful day, and then the rain date poured all 24 hours. So, but I may not go with a rain date this year. I have one there, but I may change it in the next week or so.
Okay. So when we vote on this, do you want me to vote it just in case you keep it?
Please.
Okay.
Just an observation on the checklist. So it's right, it's on the, in here, but
It's not on the
there.
checklist, so we'll,
Probably
yep, we'll have that. We'll add that on there for the chief.
Anything else,
All right,
Gus?
so-
Nope. Eileen?
All right, so.
I have one thing.
Go ahead.
The Energy Committee sponsors electric vehicles, and they
Yes.
wanted a better location this year. They thought their location was a little out of the way, and they asked the town to ask you to give them a better location as part of the permitting request. Is that possible? Catherine White on that?
I am not prepared to back up as part of the permitting request. You have to do it. I will certainly support the request going into you, but this is your car show. So I don't back up that as sort of arm twisting.
I'd just say that I had a comment that someone was unaware that there was going to be electric cars on the property, and they were a little upset with it. And, you know, where I put them all in one setting. And the person was rather upset that there were electric cars there and they weren't notified, and they want them as far out of the area as possible in case one caught on fire or anything like that.
That's legit. That's a legit concern.
So,
They have gone kaput.
Would it be fair to say that was a request that came into us, that the folks that are trying to promote education about education.
yeah, I've been talking.
They said they had some people saying, we couldn't find you guys.
Yeah.
So if you can do something that helps that would be.
Well, what I'll do is I'll talk to the fire chief. He has a little more say than I do on that.
Come close to the fire.
Yeah. I got a little reprimand from him last year. But that was, you know, it's a key question, is if one of them, you know, you can't put one of those fires out easily. So if it's in the middle of the field, then we've got a major problem. So I put them on tar, and I put them back by the, you know, the area.
They're at the top of the hill. Yep.
Which theoretically was, you know, a good location as far as emergencies or situations.
All right, well, if you can talk to Catherine White about it and figure out.
Yeah, we've been going back and forth with emails and everything.
Good. So Eileen, you want to make a motion
So
then?
if you can just authorize me to sign the license agreement, you'll bring me the check, and then we can do the license agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will vote to approve the Medfield Car Show request on Medfield State Hospital grounds on June 30th with a rain date of June 30th pending.
June 23rd.
June 23rd.
Right, June 23rd with the rain date of June 30th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
Pending final completion of the chief's review
okay, pending final review of the chief's review, a final approval of chief's review.
and authorize me to sign the license agreement once I receive the check.
All right, and having the town administrator sign the license. And are you the completion checklist, or is it still public safety?
The public safety, they just haven't had a chance to review it yet today.
Okay. And pending checklist completion and final approval from public safety.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 17 is a vote, thanks, Charlie.
All right.
Anything?
Thank you very much.
Number 17 is vote to approve the dates for Norfolk Hunt Club ride around the Medfield State Hospital from 8 a.m. to noon on the following dates, pending event checklist completion from public safety. And
That
we're-
has been completed.
That has,
Okay.
That has been completed, so they're all set.
Saturday, April 27, Saturday, May 11, Sunday, June 2nd, Sunday, August 11, Charles River Panorama Hunter Pace, Sunday, August 18th, rain date for Hunter Pace, Tuesday, September 10th, Sunday, October 5th. Saturday. October 5th, that's opening hunt. Thursday, November 28th, Thanksgiving.
all right.
Questions?
No questions.
All right. Do
Motion
I need to
then.
read all those or just?
So
as read?
moved.
All right. Motion to vote to approve the dates for Norfolk Hunt Club ride around the Medfield State Hospital from 8 a.m. to noon on the following dates that were read earlier. And the event checklist completion from public safety has been approved? Is that what you said, Christine? It's already, okay.
It's already all set.
Perfect.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 18, vote to sign contract for demographic,
Got a question from.
oh, sorry.
Chris Potts again, 7 Curve Street. Just for sake of understanding process, because we've had different new processes for events, does this include the signage? So my request, like the request for History Week, and that includes the signage, so that isn't a separate step? Sandwich boards, yeah.
No, should have been listed separately. I apologize. We'll get that on there for the next meeting for you.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Nope, I apologize.
Okay, thanks.
Well, that's an interesting idea to do it that way. Number 18, vote to sign contract for demographic enrollment study prepared by. No,
We don't need to do
skipped
that, right? That's removed. Yes?
Citizen comment. Consent agenda is not there, meeting minutes. Have you guys reviewed those?
I
Reviewed
am-
them all. The first four are okay, but I wanted to talk about one, the last one, December 5th. I don't think it's ready yet. Got too many.
Yeah, I'm good with the first four as well. This is December 5th, I started, and then I realized I gotta go back and redo that, and that's a long one.
Well, we had, so the comments are all in the Google Doc, so you can see what they're there. The only one I would, I do have a couple of comments on the November 28th. So if everybody's ready to approve the first four, I'll just tell you what, they're all, it's all okay, minor edits, but on the 28th, just so you know, I extended the comment regarding my conversation with Denise Garlick at the annual report, when she was talking about the accessory dwelling units, where she mentioned that in Needham, they have those part. And the only reason I did that was if somebody were looking at the meeting minutes, thinking about ADUs, they would see that what Needham does is have them actually as part of the main building. That's all.
Okay. All right.
So do we have a motion to?
Motion to approve October 3rd, 2023, October 17th, 2023, November 14th, 2023, and November 28th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Christine, anything else?
I have a couple of things. I just want to thank everybody for their patience when we had Janes Avenue closed for the last couple of days doing the roof and insulation project. They actually completed it today, a day early, so tomorrow the roads will be open like normal. And the Energy Committee reported that this project alone at the town hall, we should see a 27% reduction in our energy use, which will result in some serious savings here. So that's fantastic. Early voting starts this Saturday in this room. It's Saturday, no Sunday, but then all week until Friday the 1st. So, and then there's quite a few upcoming MBTA zoning dates. So I would refer everybody to Maria's MBTA zoning page to keep all of those straight. I could repeat them all for you, but it's best you get them directly from her. And that's all I had this evening.
Thank you. Gus, selectmen.
Yep, select board. I think along with the two of you, I attended Denise Garlick's annual report to the town. Thought that was well done, good conversations. She had handled good questions, and then obviously was disappointed a couple of days later to hear that she wasn't running for re-election, but having talked with her, I kind of understand where she's at and where she's thinking she wants to go. Just as a totally aside, has nothing to do with town, but my wife and I went to the, on Saturday the 9th, we went to a footlighter performance of the Mousetrap. If all the years we've lived here, this is the 100th anniversary of the Norwood the Walpole Footlighters. They have their own venue, and the quality, the caliber, is kind of, you think of it as community theater, but the caliber of the acting and the balance of the cast. They all were good actors. A lot of times you go to community theater and one or two people steal the show, and then the others, don't forget their lines. This was really well done. So if you're looking for something fun to do that's not super expensive, pay attention to the Footlighters. They have a couple more performances. We had a joint, you all know this too, joint select board, planning board Zoom meeting on the MBTA communities. My perception of that conversation is that we're making far greater strides toward finding a way to comply with the requirement without turning the town on its head. So I'm very optimistic we will get to a good solution, and then it'll be our challenge to make sure all the voters recognize it as a good solution so that they don't vote it down in an election like some of our former colleagues experienced recently out in Milton.
I was very surprised at how successful the planning board was in coming forward with a plan that made a lot of sense and didn't have huge impact on the town. It's a much more manageable product than it had originally seemed like it was going to be.
Attended the Community Choice Aggregation meeting. This again was online on Thursday the 15th in preparation for why Bob came here to get the approval to have Christine sign things. And then, just as an aside, I happened to have a conversation with Jerry Potts on the new school project. Had some good ideas, and I'm going to be curious to see where the town heads over the coming year on that front. That's it.
Thank you. Eileen?
Very similar report to the extent that I didn't make Denise's meeting in person, but I was able to Zoom in, and was completely bummed when I heard that she's moving on. It's some big shoes to fill, but certainly applaud her efforts and her dedication over the years. So, happy for her to move on to the next chapter. I too attended the planning board. I think that they've made huge strides in, I will give them credit, that very well thought out as to what they want to present, and I think it's something that the state could accept because it's realistic. There are areas that have structures that could potentially have more structures, but it wouldn't change the look and the feel of the various areas. And then I attended the Medfield Cares About Prevention monthly meeting, spent quite a bit of time still working on updating all of the paperwork just so we can apply for the grant. So all is going well there, and that's it.
I had a double feature with the Medfield Foundation. The Medfield Foundation Board and the Legacy Fund Community Board both met, and your community foundation in this town is going great guns. Raised $3 million for this town without an employees, not as much as Jean has raised, but she's got employees. But the endowment is not up at the $1 million yet, but it's getting there. Another round of grants are going to be announced very soon. And there's a speaker that Christine had recommended that we're bringing to town to inspire people. Energy Committee met, and that's it for me. Anything else?
Everybody good out there? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
No, we have an executive session.
Oh,
shoot.
Trying to get away.
Forgot about that one.
The second one.
That's I almost had you there.
Chair.
Sure you do.
Just coast at one before I leave.
The select board needs to meet in an executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate, Hinckley North, I declare that an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the select board. The open session will not reconvene at the conclusion of the executive session.
Fair enough. All right, I move that the select board meet in executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, Hinckley North. The chair has declared that an open meeting the conclusion of the executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Roll call.
Roll call. Eileen?
Aye.
Gus?
Aye.
Steve? Aye.